You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1132 Chapter 271 City of Wisdom 3 Hu Xianqing chuckled and said seriously, the new semester is starting. For this meeting, getting to know the two geniuses is one of the reasons. Secondly, everyone has to work hard. If we don't work hard, we'll go bankrupt. Hu Xianqing sighed, everyone still has to work together. The 100 Path Pavilion still has to be challenged, or the academy will run out of funds. What's the use of relying on such a small amount of funds all year round? Everyone has to work hard, whether it's you or me. How good would it be to be the majority of the Divine Literature Academy? Su Yu didn't say anything, but Hu Xianqing looked at him and smiled. Su Yu, you know the 100 Path Pavilion, right? Su Yu nodded. During the opening of the mansion, the great Ming King responded to the request of the manor head and called for many civilized masters to build the assessment tower together. It is incomparably mystical and even more precious than the secret realm. The Mansion of Daming did not set up the top 100 rankings, but the ranking of the 100 Paths Pavilion. It is not purely based on strength, but on the ranking of the 100 arts. Hu Xianqing smiled and said, that's right. This is also a reflection of fairness. Otherwise, how would those weak civilized masters be able to make a name for themselves? How would they be able to make a name for themselves and obtain sufficient resources? Was this fair? Pill concoctors would be tested on pill concocting, while beast taming would be tested on beast taming. The 100 Path Pavilion was built on this foundation. This is the same for the students and teachers. The 100 Path Pavilion has a total of 100 floors. One can enter the top 20 floors if one cultivates, top 40 if one ascends, top 60 if one ascends, top 80 if one ascends the mountains and seas, and top 100 if one ascends the sun and moon. Hu Xianqing smiled and said, a flying instructor cannot enter the 21st floor. There will be no benefits, no rewards, no salary, and no merit points throughout the year. After entering the 21st floor, one will receive 210 merit points. And so on. After entering the 30th floor, one will receive 300 merit points. After entering the 31st floor, one floor will receive 50 merit points. After reaching the 40th floor, one will receive 800 merit points a year. This is something that you will receive individually, and the academy will distribute the same amount of merit points to the academy. This is the source of the academy's additional merit points. Of course, there are also many rules. You can take a look. You are a newcomer, so you can try it from the first floor. Every time you break through to the next floor, there will be some rewards. This is an additional reward. For example, if you are a newcomer and enter the 10th floor, you might receive some other rewards. Su Yu nodded. He had seen this, but he had just entered the residence yesterday, so he didn't have the time to try it out. Hu Xianqing smiled and said, the 100 Dao Pavilion is a test for students, and it is also a test for teachers, including me. For example, I am from the 7th level of the Mountain and Sea Realm, and I am from the 60th to 80th level of the Mountain and Sea Realm. I am from the Mountain and Sea Realm, so I have to enter the 71st floor at the very least. Otherwise, I won't be able to take a single cent from the academy. Su Yu asked curiously, Dean, is this 100 Path Pavilion really that difficult? It's hard to say. It's different for individuals. Hu Xianqing smiled and said, take beast tamers for example. When he's in the 100 Path Pavilion, he might encounter some tests for his major. For example, beast taming. The 100 Path Pavilion is considered an illusion, but it doesn't count. It's half real and half illusory. This thing is very precious. To be honest, it's a top-tier heaven-tier literary soldier, and it's also the most precious treasure of our Daming Civilization Academy and even Daming Manor. There are some people who aren't weak, but once they enter, the 100 Path Pavilion might make some judgments. For example, a divine literature master, who focuses on battle and will allow you to kill, that would be troublesome. It would be very difficult for you to kill your way through. The requirements for a divine literature master are quite high. However, if you are an alchemist, you might still be able to cultivate your character, but to be able to refine pills to the 20th level or above. Suyu nodded. He understood. A magical treasure. It felt a little fairer than the top 100 rankings of the Great Xia Mansion. Of course, the need for battle seemed to have been weakened. The Great Xia Mansion actually had some pill refining rankings, but other than the people from the school, almost no one else knew about it. Dean, does that mean that if no one from the school tries to challenge the 100 Dao Pavilion, then there won't be any extra income for the whole year? That's right. Hu Xianqing smiled and said, that's why we have a large number of divine literature academies, so we don't have much to offer. For example, this semester, we will be giving out 30,000 merit points. This is actually the reward that was given out during the last semester. The 44 students were usually wandering around the several floors and more than 10 floors. On average, each of them would be on the 10th floor, so they would only receive 100 merit points. As for the 44 students, they would only receive 4,400 merit points. If they were to fly below the 30th floor, they would be rewarded with 10 merit points. Above the 30th floor, they would be rewarded with 50 merit points. As for Ling Yun, below the 50th floor, they would be rewarded with 50 merit points. From the 50s to the 70th floor, they would be rewarded with 100 merit points. After calculating, Ling Yun's annual income was not low. If he could climb to the 60th floor of Ling Yun's limit, the 31st to the 50th floor would be rewarded with 50 merit points. From the 51st to the 60th floor, he would be rewarded with 100 merit points, 2,000 merit points, and 300 merit points. From the first 30 floors, he would earn 2,300 merit points a year. The Daming Mansion was a big supporter of the Institute of Civilization. For example, a powerhouse like Qin Yong wouldn't receive much merit points a year in the Great Xia Mansion without any additional rations. Looks like I'll have to take a good look at the rules of the 100 Dao Pavilion. Earning a little is considered good, but I can't just sit around and eat the mountain dry. Suyu thought to himself, but Hu Xianqing didn't bring this up again. He continued, everyone has to challenge the 100 Dao Pavilion. It's a must. If we don't challenge the building, we won't be able to earn any income. We can't count on our families. In addition, there are some missions issued by the Academy. Everyone should strive to complete what they can and obtain some merit points. As soon as these words were said, some people below became anxious. Principal, can we strive for more easy missions? Every year, it's those missions that are extremely difficult. Either we eliminate the demonic beasts in the wilderness, or we capture the members of the 10,000 races. These are the matters of the warriors, so it's not something that we should do. Look at the other academies. Their missions are so easy. Maintain the roads, repair the flower beds, provide some wine, and repair the riding beasts. It's countless times easier than ours. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1133. 1133 Chapter 271 City of Wisdom 4. Someone complained for a while. We also want these missions. Hu Xianqing sighed, aren't we divine scribes? We are also the most powerful divine scribes of the multiple divine languages department. The purpose of the academy is to let us divine scribes have more combat power. There are also many combat missions for the divine languages department alone. Above and below, Su Yu and Wu Lan looked at each other in dismay. Was this mission very difficult? It was not considered difficult, right? The missions given to the students should be some simple capture and kill missions. In fact, it was quite common in the Great Xia Manor. Of course, Su Yu had never accepted them, except for the last time when he went to the Southern Yuan dynasty to exterminate demonic beasts. However, hearing the students' words, they all felt that it was very difficult. Should he accept some daily missions, such as repairing riding beasts? Su Yu was still in a daze when Huang Feng sent a voice transmission. Junior brother, I'm sorry for the joke. There aren't many combat department missions in our academy. Most of them are supplementary missions that match with the divine text. Su Yu smiled and nodded. There are specialties in the field, so perhaps you guys were right. It was not easy to train a civilized master. To let a divine alchemist fight might be a waste of talent, even though the divine alchemists he knew, such as Wu Yuehua, seemed to be a battle maniac. Hu Xianqing did not mind the noise and soon gave everyone a jade talisman. He smiled and said, "This is the mission for this semester. Everyone must complete it before the end of the semester. Only by completing it can we feel at ease this semester. Otherwise, we will be criticized by the academy. There will be rewards for completing the mission. Everyone, don't look like that." After Hu Xianqing finished speaking, he looked at Su Yu and said with a smile, "Su Yu, your Primordial Spirit Research Institute has just opened. Do you need to recruit some people from the academy?" He wanted to create some opportunities for everyone to earn money. Otherwise, many students would not be able to support their own cultivation. Su Yu smiled and said, "There's no need for that for the time being. If there's a need, I will issue a mission." "All right then." Hu Xianqing felt a little regretful. He was not going to pluck out a single cent. This kid was so rich, yet he was still unwilling to pluck out a single hair. Then today's opening meeting will end here. Everyone, please disperse. Su Yu, you stay for a while. Su Yu was a little surprised, but he still nodded his head. He glanced at Wu Lan over there, but Wu Lan ignored him and walked off on her own. Su Yu could not help but laugh. There was no need for him to worry. After everyone else left, Hu Xianqing said, "It's like this. Didn't you tell the mansion master that you need some help? The knowledgeable kind. There are many old people in the school now. Do you want to choose a few to study with you?" Su Yu thought for a moment and said, "Does senior brother Wen count?" Hu Xianqing was speechless. Wen Zhong. He's at the 9th level of Lingyun realm, and he's not weak. Senior brother Wen's strength isn't weak, but he's getting older. There might not be any hope for the mountain and sea realm. If my God-converging aperture technique comes out, senior brother might be able to enter the mountain and sea realm first. What do you think, Dean? Hu Xianqing fell into deep thought. Su Yu continued, "I just chatted with senior brother and found out that senior brother has a deep understanding of the essence aperture and God-converging aperture. However, after spending too much time on these things, he didn't care about his own acupuncture points and God-converging apertures. Now that he's old, if this goes on, he'll pass away in a few years." Hu Xianqing sighed, "That's right. Wen Zhong actually has quite a strong foundation and good aptitude. He has been following me for hundreds of years and hasn't entered the mountains and seas for a long time. Now, his body is old and his sea of will has gradually deteriorated with the passage of time. If this goes on, there is no hope for the mountains and seas. Perhaps he will pass away in a few decades." Thinking of this, he looked at Su Yu and asked, "Can you let him enter the mountains and seas?" "I don't know." Su Yu said calmly, "I'm just cultivating my character. The method of closing the divine aperture is only a concept and has not been developed yet. I can't guarantee that it will work." Hu Xianqing thought of Su Yu's fire of civilization and hesitated for a moment. He nodded. "All right, I'll try to persuade Wen Zhong." Over the years, he has gradually fallen into a bottleneck. A few years ago, after he developed the fusion technique, he stopped researching. Su Yu was stunned. What was that? Fusion technique? He knew about this. When he was deducing the fusion technique, he had even learned about it. There were two decent fusion techniques in the human race. One was called the fusion technique and had 15 openings, while the other was called the fusion technique and had 24 openings. Speaking of the fusion technique, the effects were not bad. It was comparable to Su Yu's first version of the fusion technique. However, Su Yu's first version had 18 openings, which was 6 openings less than the fusion technique. Therefore, when the new fusion technique was released, everyone was more willing to cultivate Su Yu's version. However, it did not mean that the fusion technique was useless. On the contrary, Su Yu had obtained a lot of inspiration from this cultivation technique, including the operation and derivation of the later 36 openings. In fact, he had borrowed this cultivation technique. After all, this was a human cultivation technique. It was more in line with some of the habits of the human race. Su Yu was really in a daze. He quickly took out a book from his storage ring. Very quickly, he flipped to the title page and saw the name of the creator of the fusion technique, Wenzhong. Su Yu was slightly shocked. I was wondering why it sounded a little familiar. So it was this person. This person could be considered a big shot. Hu Xianqing did not mind. He smiled and said, "What, do you think I'm lying to you?" Wenzhong had been focusing on the research of the essence aperture and the divine aperture all these years, so he could be considered an expert in this field. However, when your fusion technique was released, Wenzhong gave up. Actually, before this, he was also improving the fusion technique. Unfortunately, before he succeeded, your version was released. I heard that you have a version with 36 apertures. Is that true? It's true. Hu Xianqing thought for a moment and said, "It's not difficult for you to get Wenzhong to work for you. Let's see if you're willing to give it up. Show him that version of the acupoint convergence method. He'll work for you until he dies." To Wenzhong, the acupoint convergence method was 100 years of creation and accumulation. In the end, the results of his 100 years of work were not as good as the results of Su Yu's work in a few days. At this moment, Su Yu finally understood the meaning behind Wenzhong's words. In the first edition, even if Wenzhong gave him time, he would still be able to figure it out. It was very ordinary. Previously, even though Su Yu did not mention it, he felt that this old man was somewhat suspicious. Since he was able to figure it out, of course he would say that he was able to figure it out. However, now that he knew that the other party had once created the fusion technique, Su Yu could only say that the other party was not bragging. He had even borrowed his cultivation technique before. Sure. Su Yu also agreed readily and said hurriedly, "Then I'll go and talk to senior brother Wen later. The dean will also help me talk to him. I'm afraid that senior brother Wen won't be willing. After all, he's a powerhouse at the 9th level of Ling Yun." After saying that, he suddenly moved slightly and asked, "Dean, is senior brother Wen a pavilion elder?" "It's an honor." Hu Xianqing casually said that. He smiled and said, "It's because of the fusion technique." At that time, most of the human race used this, so he could be considered to have made a meritorious contribution and become an honor pavilion elder. In the end, when you used this fusion technique, he was too ashamed to face anyone. That slap of yours was really loud. Su Yu shook his head and said, "Senior brother Wen's true strength is different from mine. I'm standing on the shoulders of senior brother Wen and the others, and it was processed in the later stages. There's still a big gap." Su Yu felt that Wenzhong was really a good candidate. Even if he managed to create some cultivation techniques in the later stages, he could still have teacher Zhao Li to help him deduce them in the Great Xia manner. However, Su Yu felt that Wenzhong was a good candidate here. He was more suitable than Zhao Li because Zhao Li was not an expert in this area after all, Wenzhong was. As expected, although there were not many experts in the Great Ming manner, Su Yu discovered that this place might really be the city of wisdom, the city of creativity. In this place, he might be able to absorb enough nutrients to develop himself. Strengthen himself. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1134. 1134 Chapter 272 Aftermath 1. In order to build the research institute quickly, Su Yu began to recruit people. From Hu Xianqing's side, He also took some of the old man's information that he had prepared to recommend. The research institute still needed some manpower. Although Su Yu could use his blood essence, open his acupoints, and reverse engineer the cultivation method, some things were too difficult to hide, so it was necessary to hide properly. The current him had actually exposed many things, and even allowed people to contact the inheritance of the ruins. However, at least until now, no one knew that there was an atlas in his mind. It was a very magical atlas. Just as Su Yu was enjoying the rare piece and starting to build a research institute, the great Xia Manor was still in turmoil. The storm that had occurred when the single divine literature department attacked Su Yu was gradually over. At the price of killing many mountains and seas, the great Xia Manor had quelled this storm. However, there were some things that could not be forgotten just by killing a few people. The outbreak of the Battle of Dan Duo, its exposure, and its publicity had all been engraved in the hearts of the citizens of the great Xia Mansion. Su Yu's escape had now been hidden in their hearts. However, if one day, Su Yu caused a huge commotion, it would very quickly remind people of this escaping genius. Great Xia Civilization Academy. This semester's Civilization Academy had become increasingly quiet, cold, and even deathly silent. Many elders had died. There were also many Lingyun realm researchers who had greatly reduced the strength of the single divine literature department. As for the multiple divine literature department, without Su Yu, Bai Feng, and Hong Tan, they were also dead. Even Wuxia didn't go out much, not to mention Chen Yong who always liked to stay in the library. January 16th. Su Yu was preparing to recruit people. At this moment, a guard commander below the library said loudly, "Pavilion Elder Chen, please attend the Academy's Pavilion Elder meeting." "I'm not going. I'm not interested." Chen Yong's faint reply came from upstairs. The guard commander said hurriedly, "Pavilion Elder, the new deputy prefect has arrived." What Manor Head One means is that all the pavilion elders who are not in closed-door cultivation should go and meet him. Just say that I am in seclusion. Elder. The commander of the guards was also anxious. What he means is that he wants to get to know everyone. Furthermore, he might want to talk about Su Yu. A moment later, Chen Yong went downstairs. Looking at the commander of the guards, he said calmly, "Deputy Prefect Yuan wants to talk about Su Yu." "What is there to talk about? Since he has left, what else is there to talk about?" The commander of the guards lowered his head. Ever since this head Chen had broken through to the mountain and sea realm, he had kept a low profile. However, after seeing him today, he still felt a little nervous. He said softly, "Elder, I don't know what exactly we are talking about. You will only know when you are there." Boring. Chen Yong frowned slightly. As he walked, he asked, "Did Head One say anything?" "No." "What about Xia Chongqing and Su Ziming?" "He didn't say anything." Chen Yong didn't ask any more questions. His expression returned to normal as he walked towards the Heart Cultivation Pavilion. A moment later, in the meeting room of the Heart Cultivation Pavilion elders, one pavilion elder after another had arrived. Out of the 36 Shanghai pavilion elders, 3 had died. Now that Chen Yong had advanced, there were still 34 Shanghai pavilion elders. However, many of them were not in the academy or were in seclusion. The number of pavilion elders that the academy could see was around 20. When Chen Yong arrived, the few manor heads had not arrived. When they saw Chen Yong, the meeting room was very quiet. Pavilion Elder Fong from the Single God Language Department was also present. At this moment, it was extremely quiet. In the past, there were 8 pavilion elders from the Single God Language Department. Now, Zheng and Ma were in the vanguard camp, and Zhao and Zhou were in seclusion. 3 of them had died, only he was left to support the Great Xia Civilization Academy's Single God Language Department. In the blink of an eye, the Single Divine Text Department was showing signs of decline. And all of this was because of Su Yu alone. Chen Yong did not greet the others. He sat down at the back and did not say a word. A moment later, the door opened and Wan Tianxing and the others arrived. Apart from Wan Tianxing, Xie Chongqing, and Su Ziming, there was also an extremely young man. He looked very young and thin, and there was a gentle smile on his face. However, his aura faintly surpassed that of the 10,000 heavenly saints. Sun-Moon Realm. The few of them sat down. This Sun-Moon Realm expert sat on the left side of the table, and he was even stronger than Su Ziming. The first person on the right side was Xia Chongqing, and he represented the Xia clan. Everyone was very quiet. Even when a few prefects came, no one responded. After a while, someone entered. Ji Hong. Ji Hong quickly entered the door. Without saying anything, he picked up a piece of paper and quickly said, "Request for a state decree. I hereby appoint Yuan Qingdong as the first deputy mansion master of the Great Xia Institute of Civilization." The former first deputy mansion master was Zhou Mingren. Now that Zhou Mingren was in closed-door cultivation, he was also removed from the position of first deputy mansion master because of the matter with Zhai Feng and the others. After Ji Hong finished speaking, he did not stop. He came and left in a hurry. He quickly said, "All of you can discuss your own matters. Thank you for your hard work, Prefect Wan. Goodbye." Ji Hong came and left even faster. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the Heart Cultivation Pavilion. Yuan Qingdong was a little surprised. This Director Ji is really a busy person. With a laugh, Yuan Qingdong said, "Everyone, it is my honor to be able to come to the Great Xia Mansion, to come to the Civilization Academy, and to accept such an important task. I am flattered." It was very quiet. A moment later, the Feng Pavilion elder of the Single Divine One faction smiled and said, "It's our honor to have the head of the Yuan Manor come." Yuan Qingdong raised his eyebrows slightly and smiled, but did not say anything else. The people of the Great Xia Manor were really arrogant. Were they ostracizing him? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1135. 1135 Chapter 272 Aftermath Chiu Subscribe, 2. In the past, when Wan Tianxing took over as head of the academy, there was no one who rejected him. Wan Tianxing, who had not spoken up all this while. At this moment, he said calmly, "Let's not talk about idle chatter. Yuan Qingdong's deputy head is a Sun-Moon Realm expert. In the past, the Great Xia Civilization Academy was one of the top 3 powerful academies. Now, there are many mountains and seas, but there isn't a single sun-moon." Cough cough cough. Many people coughed lightly. Wan Tianxing did not mind and continued, "Now, a Sun-Moon Realm expert has finally arrived. It can be considered as propping up the facade of the Great Xia Civilization Academy. As for what Prefect Yuan is in charge of, it's still Zhou Mingren's matter from back then. He is mainly in charge of the Divine Literature Academy." Wan Tianxing gave a simple explanation and said with a faint smile, "Prefect Yuan, I'll leave the rest of the time to you. You're new here, so tell us more. Let everyone get to know you and get to know you." Yuan Qingdong smiled and said, "Thank you, Yuan Mansion Master. Actually, many of you here know me and have interacted with me before. There are also some pavilion elders who have gone to the exploration realm to further their studies, so they're even more familiar with me. I'm new here today, so I won't say much. The biggest change in the Great Xia Civilization Academy recently was Su Yu's defection." As soon as he said this, Chen Yong looked at him and didn't say anything. In the crowd, a few pavilion elders frowned slightly. One of the pavilion elders with a bad temper said directly, "Yuan Mansion Master, it's better to take back the word defection. It's not easy to calm down, but now that you're here, do you have to find something to do?" This pavilion elder had a bad temper, and his words were not polite. He frowned and said, "It's already a shame. One of the sun and moon has already died, and you're still bringing this up. Are you here to do business or to find trouble? If you're looking for trouble, let the Xia family talk to you. Yuan Qingdong furrowed his brows slightly, but before he could speak, Elder Huang coughed softly from below and said with a smile, "The head of Yuan Mansion must have been tired from the journey and hasn't woken up yet. The cabinet elder meeting will be temporarily suspended until the head of Yuan Mansion has rested." Yuan Qingdong furrowed his brows again. "Everyone, I know that you're not willing to listen, but there are some things that are better explained clearly. When I said that I defected, I wasn't looking for trouble for no reason, nor was I deliberately looking for trouble. I think that some people actually understand, but they pretended not to know." He looked at Chen Yong. Chen Yong did not say anything. Yuan Qingdong said calmly, "This time, Suyu left. If we look at the cause and effect, it was a group of people from the Shan Shenwen faction who were blinded by greed. They deserved to be killed, but they also deserved to die." Everyone was slightly surprised and did not speak again. Yuan Qingdong said again, "But this time, actually, everyone knows that some things were premeditated. Manor Head Zhu's attack was premeditated. There's no doubt about this. Of course, this is not Su Yu's fault. I also have no reason to say that Su Yu defected. He contacted the manor head of Daming Manor. That was his ability. Has anyone noticed something?" He looked at the crowd. Some of the things that Su Yu played were actually cut off. I'm no longer able to get some of the original video records, but I've checked some remnants. I've also been to Starfall Mountain, and I've also made some insignificant discoveries. With that, he waved his hand, and a figure appeared in front of everyone. "Everyone, do you know who this is?" The moment he said that, many people looked at his image. Following that, their expressions became a little strange. Yuan Qingdong smiled. "I think many of you know him. In the past, he was a genius from the Great Xia Civilization Academy, Feng Qi. Isn't he dead?" Some people were surprised. Yuan Qingdong narrowed his eyes and smiled. "He just faked his death." Actually, the people from the quest boundary had already set their eyes on him. After he faked his death, he concealed his identity and secretly joined the Myriad Clan sect, joining the Six Wings Divine sect. The moment these words were said, someone's expression changed. Yuan Qingdong laughed. "This person is a big boss of the religion. His status is not low, and he is even very high. He has the strength of the Shanhai realm and was a genius of the Great Xia Civilization Academy. His combat strength is also extraordinary. Even an ordinary fourth or fifth layer of the Shanhai realm might not be able to defeat him." His eyes were dark as he laughed, "But this time, we actually found traces of him at Xinglua Mountain. Not only that, there is evidence that Feng Qi was a helper that Su Yu called over and ambushed the traitor elderly." Yuan Qingdong smiled and looked at Chen Yong. He said faintly, "I think Elder Chen knows this person. Feng Qi, you shouldn't be unfamiliar with him. And Feng Qi is a member of the Six-Winged Divine Sect. This is also conclusive evidence. This time, Feng Qi acted to protect Su Yu. I have reason to suspect that there is something fishy going on. Su Yu ambushed Jin Yuhui and the others, ambushed the Blood Fire sect master and deputy sect master, ambushed the Divine Dragon sect, Devil Scorpion sect, and the others. What is the purpose of this? Could it be that he was trying to eliminate the enemies of the Six-Winged God sect? Was Mansion Master Zhu used? What is Su Yu's stance? Who is he working for? Where did some of the cultivation techniques he inherited come from? Were they from the ruins or were they given to him by the Six-Winged God clan? Is the name of his genius true, or does the Six-Winged God sect need the name of this genius? If he inherited it from the ruins, no one covets this point. What is his. However, I still hope that he can make it public. Don't worry, I don't covet his ruins. I will even suggest that the Great Xia Mansion and the Seeker Realm arrange people to protect it so that Suyu can successfully inherit the ruins, but if it's not the ruins, then where did it come from? Yuan Qingdong smiled and said, Pavilion Elder Chen, this is the first thing that I want to capture when I come to the Great Xia Civilization Academy. This is no small matter. Because of Suyu, many changes have occurred. Even the Great Ming and Great Xia Manors have been involved, including the Great Zhou Manors and the Great Shang Manors. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1136 1136 Chapter 272 Aftermath Chiu Subscribe, 3. We have to continue investigating. If we continue investigating, the facts cannot be refuted. Yuan Qingdong's expression turned cold as he said, a fellow who might be a hidden genius of the Six Wings Divine Sect has even received the Great Ming Mansion's attention. We can't just let this go and muddle through. The other elders were at a loss for words at this moment. Their expressions were somewhat ugly. Elder Huang couldn't help but ask, Feng Qi is a member of the Six Wings Divine Sect. Where's the evidence? Evidence? Yuan Qingdong smiled and said, of course there is. Everyone, please take a look. Soon, he released a video. It was a video of Feng Qi and some members of the Six Wings Divine Sect moving together. However, Feng Qi's appearance wasn't revealed. Elder Huang frowned and said, how do we prove that this is Feng Qi? His body shape is somewhat similar. Yuan Qingdong interrupted, the clues from the internal department have been verified by the Seeker Realm. Let's put it this way. If Feng Qi dares to come and prove himself that he is not a member of the Six Wings Divine Sect, then there will be a misunderstanding. Everyone will have an explanation. However, if he doesn't dare, then faking his death back then is a very big problem. Faking his death. This was indeed a very big problem. Including how Feng Qi returned to the human realm, it was also a problem. Putting everything else aside, for a genius to feign death, the Great Xia Manor had spent quite a lot of money to nurture a genius like Feng Qi. This included sending him to the Starry Manor, where he feigned death. This was a kind of betrayal. And Feng Qi had helped Suyu this time. Chen Yong said calmly, then does Head Yuan mean to capture Suyu and bring him to justice? It's still too early to talk about capturing him. Yuan Qingdong smiled and said, however, I need Suyu to come to the Great Xia Manor to prove his innocence. This isn't too much, right? If he doesn't want to come, I can go too. As long as Suyu explains his relationship with Feng Qi, everything will not be a problem. Chen Yong said indifferently, what is there to say? It has nothing to do with Suyu. I asked Feng Qi to go. The moment these words were said, the meeting room fell silent. Chen Yong said indifferently, Feng Qi is my good friend. As for joining the Six-Winged God sect or even faking his death, it was all arranged by me. I was attacked by the Six-Winged God sect in the past. In order to investigate the truth and find my enemy, I asked Feng Qi to disguise his identity and join them. Is there a problem? Yes. Yuan Qing said faintly, even you are not qualified to arrange for someone to go undercover in the Myriad Clan sect. Who did you report to? Undercover, you have to report. Otherwise, who knows if you really joined or pretended to be undercover? Report it to me. Myriad Heaven Sage smiled and said, all right, old Yuan. When you mentioned Feng Qi, I already wanted to say something. You guys did a thorough investigation. Feng Qi was passed through by my side. Back then, he was injured in the Starry Manor. When Chen Yong mentioned it, I wanted to take the opportunity to let him enter the Six-Winged Divine Sect. So, I arranged it just like that. Yuan Qingdong's expression changed slightly as he laughed softly, I see. In that case, I must have misunderstood. As he said that, Yuan Qingdong laughed, it's just a misunderstanding. Then forget it. It turns out that Feng Qi is one of us, however. I'm afraid that Feng Qi is in a bit of trouble now. The news of him helping Su Yu should have spread. Once the Six Wings Divine Sect receives the news, Feng Qi's identity might be exposed. I thought that it was the Six Wings Divine Sect who instigated it. Chen Yong's expression changed as he said, Yuan Mansion Master, aren't you the only one who knows about this news? How did it leak out? Yuan Qingdong said in annoyance, you didn't tell us earlier, nor did you report it to the Quest Realm. Previously, we found Feng Qi's whereabouts. We wanted to capture him, but we failed. However, the matter of him helping Su Yu has also been leaked out. I'm afraid that it will be known to others. Sigh, a misunderstanding is inevitable in many cases. Yuan Qingdong said helplessly, if I had told you earlier, there wouldn't have been such a misunderstanding. The matter of Su Yu's defection was also a misunderstanding. Fortunately, it wasn't made public rashly. Otherwise, it would have been troublesome. Next time, everyone, you must explain some things to me. Chen Yong nodded slightly. We will. On Brother Feng's side, we can only pray for our own good. No one knows where he is now. As he said that, Chen Yong sighed, I was too careless. I thought no one would discover Brother Feng's whereabouts. Yuan Qingdong was also regretful. He quickly comforted him, good people have their own fate. Even those in the Shanhai realm wouldn't dare to fight within the human realm. The commotion is too big. Unless the Sun and Moon realm comes out to capture him, we can only suppress the commotion. The Six Wings Divine Religion isn't weak. Their cult master is Sun and Moon, right? Yuan Qingdong sighed, I hope the Six Wings Divine Religion's cult master won't come out. No one said a word. This Yuan Qingdong came out to show his might. They didn't know Feng Qi's identity, but in the blink of an eye, he was exposed by Yuan Qingdong. If Chen Yong didn't admit it, even Su Yu's side would be in trouble. Colluding with the 10,000 race religion, even running to Daming Manor was useless. Now that Feng Qi was being hunted down, it was also a problem. Chen Yong took a deep breath and slowly said, I hope so. Since it has come to this point, I hope that the Great Xia Prefecture can still lend some support and say that Feng Qi is someone from the Great Xia Prefecture. If the Myriad Clan sect makes a move, they must consider the consequences. Yuan Qing said faintly, right now, the Six Wings Divine Sect might not have confirmed Feng Qi's identity. With what you said, his identity has instead been confirmed. If Feng Qi can explain clearly now and muddle through, Elder Chen, then the Great Xia Prefecture's declaration will become a death warrant. Chen Yong smiled faintly and said, that's also fate. Manor Head, on the Great Xia Manor side, I'll have to trouble the Manor Head to come forward and explain a bit. Let's issue a statement. Although it might not be useful, it can at least intimidate a bit. At the very least, it can intimidate some small sects and not dare to rashly get involved. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1137. 1137 Chapter 272 Aftermath 4. Alright. Wan Tianqing nodded. This matter is easy to handle. I don't know Feng Qi's exact location. I hope he can escape this calamity. As he spoke, Wan Tianqing looked at Yuan Qingdong and smiled. Yuan Mansion Master, is there anything else you want to say? There's one more thing. Yuan Qingdong smiled. It's like this. There are some things that it's best to say out loud. Director Chen has now become Mountain and Sea, and he has become a pavilion elder. According to the rules, the position of the library pavilion director is no longer suitable for Elder Chen. Coincidentally, the Divine Arts Academy has lost a few pavilion elders this time. Elder Chen has advanced to Mountain and Sea. I think it's better for those who are capable to do more. I'll let Elder Chen be in charge of the matters that Yu Hong did previously. I'll let Elder Chen handle some of the resource allocation tasks for the Divine Arts Academy. This was a fat job. Of course, it was hard to say now. It was before. But now, the great Xia Manor was furious and cut off a large amount of resources. The academy was now filled with complaints. At this moment, they were in charge of the distribution and management of resources. If they couldn't eat the fox, they would still have to stir up trouble. If they didn't get enough, everyone would scold them. If they got too much, don't even think about it. If they didn't get too much, they wouldn't get too much. They would still have to abandon the important position of the library pavilion. Chen Yong smiled and nodded. All right, everything will be done according to the rules. Yuan Qingdong also smiled and quickly said, then according to the rules, the School of Multi-Divine Literature has long been banned. The Divine Literature Battle Technique Stele should have been in the library pavilion. Elder Chen, please hand it over to the academy. Chen Yong smiled and said, Divine Literature Battle Technique Stele. This thing, back then, my Grandmaster took it away and brought it to the heavenly battlefield. It was lost. His Grandmaster, the 5th generation. When these words were said, the elders gritted their teeth and felt their teeth ache. Go to hell. Su Yu had just inherited the Divine Literature Battle Technique. Your words, weren't you lying through your teeth? Yuan Qingdong was also stunned for a moment. He thought that Chen Yong would refuse, resist, and find reasons, but he didn't expect Chen Yong to deceive him like this. That's Su Yu. Su Yu's Divine Literature Battle Technique was learned by him because of his extraordinary talent. So did I, and so did my junior brother Bai Feng. Chen Yong smiled and said, and my disciple, Wuxia, is also a self-taught genius. If the head of Yuan Mansion doesn't believe me, I'll try to recruit a few hundred more geniuses. I guarantee that at least a few of them will be able to become self-taught geniuses. Just give me some time. Screw you. You're really lying through your teeth. You think everyone is an idiot. Self-taught talents. Who are you trying to fool? Chen Yong smiled and said, if you don't believe me, head to my Grandmaster. Maybe he will tell you. Yuan Qingdong narrowed his eyes and smiled. Then forget it. If you lose it, so be it. As he said that, he added, since Su Yu has already left and entered the Daming Civilization Academy, it's time to ban the academic records of the Great Xia Civilization Academy. 1 student and 2 academic records. This is against the rules. Chen Yong smiled and said, it's up to you. I don't have any objections. It's good to cut off this relationship. At this moment, Wan Tianqing said faintly, forget it, keep it. After all, he was a genius who had walked out of the Xia Civilization Academy. Head Yuan, you've just arrived today and you're tired. Take a rest. You don't have to worry about Su Yu. It's not a big deal. Yuan Mansion Master. Yuan Qingdong wanted to say a few more words. Wan Tianqing coughed and said, I've been sitting here for too long. I'm getting old and I can't take it anymore. Let's end the meeting. As for Yuan Mansion Master's induction banquet, Old Qi, you guys can make the arrangements. I won't be attending. Sigh, for a student, I've gone through many cabinet elder meetings. Next time, there's no need to hold any cabinet elder meetings alone for Su Yu. It'll waste too much time and everyone. After saying that, he stood up and was about to leave. Yuan Qingdong frowned and said, Mansion Master Wan, I still have something to say. Including the 3 great demons that helped Su Yu previously, I can't send them to Su Yu easily. These great demons committed many evil deeds in the past. Previously, everyone thought that they were all dead. Who would have thought that they were still alive? These great demons once killed humans on the battlefield of the heavens. Even the few Ling Yun and soaring demons on his body have human lives in their hands. Wan Tianxing began to cough. He smiled and said, "It's fine as long as they are reformed. As for their mounts, as long as they are willing to serve the human race, it's fine as long as they are punished for some things. Even the mounts that the few invincible experts have tamed, Yuan Mansion Master, do you dare to say that those mounts have never killed anyone? Back then, everyone had their own master. Since you tamed the other party and wanted him to become your mount, you didn't cause any trouble during the period of your mount. This is considered to be a break from the past. Being a mount for the human race is considered atonement." After saying that, he smiled and said, "Not to mention, that fellow Hong Tan is also a black-hearted person. He has been cutting off his own flesh and selling his blood for many years. Now, everyone knows that he was the one who provided some of the blood essence previously. I wonder how his Wentan Research Center has been able to hold on for so long. Let's not talk about this matter anymore. If he really commits another crime, not only will his mount be punished, his master will also be punished." Yuan Qingdong frowned and did not say anything else. He did not think that the 10,000 Heavenly Saints city would use the invincible mount as an excuse. To put it bluntly, which powerful great demon did not have any human lives on their hands? In the past, everyone had their own master. Great demons were also powerful. It was precisely because they were powerful that they were noticed by Invincible. It was because they caused trouble in the heavenly battlefield that they killed a batch and subdued a batch. These mounts weren't good people either. If he were to pursue the matter further, he would have to pursue the matter further. After the myriad heaven sage left, Chen Yong stood up as well. He smiled and said, "Principal Yuan, I'll be taking my leave as well. Right, since I'm in charge of the resource department, I'll head over to check on the accounts later. I hope that it will match up with the others, but if it doesn't, Principal Zhou will have to make up for it. If it doesn't, there's nothing I can do about it." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1138. 1138 Chapter 272 Aftermath. Chiu subscribe. 5. Yuan Qingdong did not pay any attention to it. The other elders also stood up and left. Before Elder Huang left, he sighed and did not say much. However, he was a little dissatisfied. This matter had just been settled, and this Yuan Mansion Master had come again. He was extremely annoyed. It was good that Suyu had left. If he continued to stay, it would inevitably be another chaotic fight. That kid was not as tolerant as Qin Yong. If that fellow was an elder, he would have turned hostile at the elder meeting today. The pavilion elders dispersed. Yuan Qingdong furrowed his brows and did not speak. Just as he was about to leave, he heard a voice beside his ear. "Yuan Mansion Master, don't be so reckless. Your blade is not sharp enough. The multi-element divine literature has already lost everything. To put it bluntly, a barefooted person is not afraid of wearing shoes. It's not like I haven't died in the sun-moon state before. My master has come out of seclusion and is the sun-moon. The multi-element divine literature is the sun-moon. I hope that when the time comes, Yuan Mansion Master will not regret it." Yuan Qingdong's eyes instantly turned sharp as he looked outside the door. Outside the door, Chen Yong turned around and revealed a faint smile on his face. He transmitted his voice, "Feng Qi had better be alive and live a little longer. Otherwise, Yuan Mansion Master, you'd better keep an eye on me until you die. Otherwise, your Yuan family's old and young, I." He. Chen Yong smiled and turned to leave. Yuan Qingdong transmitted his voice coldly, "Chen Yong, you've been bewitched. Are you threatening me with my family?" "Bewitched? No, it's the head of the Yuan Mansion who's bewitched." "What did I say?" "I said that I was taking care of the head of the Yuan Mansion's family." "What did I say wrong?" Chen Yong did not even turn his head. He transmitted his voice with a smile, "I have nothing else to ask for. My junior brother is in the heavenly battlefield. My junior nephew has been forced to leave, and I only have one disciple. It doesn't matter. Lord Xiaohe once promised that her parents would enter the Hall of Heroes. If you have the guts, feel free to make your move. As for me, I don't need the Yuan Mansion Master to worry about me. You are not sharp enough to be a blade. You cannot ignore the rules. You can try to kill me in the academy, or you can try it in the Great Xia Manor. If you are invincible, I would still be a little worried. Unfortunately, you are not. Chen Yong. I think you have really become a devil. Yuan Qingdong said coldly, what I said today is in accordance with the rules. Regardless of whether it is Feng Qi or Su Yu, they are all suspects and cannot be cleared. You did not say it yourself, but my suspicions are reasonable. You actually dare to threaten me. Head Yuan has misunderstood. I did not say anything. Chen Yong's laughter was still there. A moment later, he had completely left. After they had all left, Elder Fong said in a low voice, Yuan Mansion Master, what do we do now? Yuan Qingdong glanced at him, he said indifferently, nothing to be done. We will reorganize the single divine literature department, eliminate the trash, and leave the elites behind. We will provide the limited resources to those elites. The few 9th-level Lingyun realm cultivators will focus on nurturing and strive to break through to the mountains and seas. After taking over the book collection pavilion and searching for the location of the divine literature battle technique stele, Chen Yong easily gave up the book collection pavilion. The divine literature battle technique stele may have been taken away by Su Yu. After saying that, he said coldly, keep an eye on Chen Yong. Currently, the Great Xia Mansion had another branch of the Divine Inscription branch. He was the only one left. Hong Tan was in closed-door cultivation, so there was no need to bother about that student of his. A mediocre person like him could only soar into the sky, and Ling Yun could not change anything. It's a good thing that Su Yu has left. Otherwise, if we continue to stir up trouble in the Great Xia Mansion, the branch of the Divine Inscription branch will definitely be revived. Su Yu's departure was not necessarily a bad thing. That fellow was too talented and his ability to stir up trouble was too strong. If he did not leave, sooner or later, he would stir up some trouble. Understood. As he spoke, Yuan Qingdong continued, now, don't bother about some trivial matters. I originally wanted to cut off Su Yu's path of return, but I did not expect the myriad divine sage to make a move. He narrowed his eyes, very quickly, he said, ignore him. If he wants to hide, then continue to hide. If he hides until the end, he will be a dead tiger. At the end of this year, there will be a competition for the members of the Starry Mansion. I don't care about anything else. This time, the Great Xia Mansion will have 20 spots. The Divine Literature Department alone will have to take down at least 5 spots. Elder Fong nodded, this shouldn't be difficult. Lu Hong and Hu Wensheng are both geniuses. Now that they have entered Lingyun, there are still a few others who have a high chance of soaring into the sky. There are also some geniuses from the 9 Heavens and Dao Seeking Academy. The 5 spots will be the least. I hope so. After saying that, Yuan Qingdong smiled faintly and said, in addition, the Academy of Divine Literature has recently recruited another teaching assistant. Teaching assistant? Dan Xiong. Elder Fong's expression changed slightly. He wants to join the Great Xia Institute of Civilization. Why not? Yuan Qingdong smiled and said, it's very interesting, isn't it? Perhaps, he will bring us some surprises. Elder Fong was stunned for a moment. Then the Xia family. The Xia family has just been cleaned up. Don't tell me that they will strike again if they are innocent. Yuan Qingdong glanced at him, don't tell me that you still expect the Xia family to look up to you. At this moment, you still can't see through it. The Xia family has always supported Lu Wenyan's group. They usually don't deal with you, but they lack a reason. Don't give the Xia family any reason to attack you. Idiots, do you understand? Despite being scolded, Pavilion Master Fong did not refute and nodded. He also saw that the Xia family was indeed on the side of the many divine inscriptions. Once they had the opportunity and reason, they would not show any mercy when attacking them. He still remembered the miserable situation of the Pavilion Masters and the E3 tribes. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1139. 1139 Chapter 273 Governor Niu, Truly Awesome, 1. Daming Prefecture. The day after Su Yu took over the research institute, he welcomed a big name in the research field, Wen Zhong. Wen Zhong was too familiar with this research institute, even more familiar than his own home. When Hu Xianqing was making the spatial teleportation array, he was his right-hand man. In the blink of an eye, he entered the research institute once again. The only difference was that the research institute had a new master. In the research institute, Wen Zhong had just entered under Su Yu's lead when he suddenly turned his gaze to the little furball, who was playing with those small animals. His eyes were filled with puzzlement, then curiosity, then contemplation, and finally, a little surprise. This is. Wen Zhong looked at the little furball and looked at Su Yu in surprise. This is an ancient race? Su Yu looked at him, and Wen Zhong quickly said, it's an ancient race that has been passed down for countless years without a break. Su Yu shook his head. I'm not sure about that, but it should be a race that just appeared on the battlefield of the heavens. My grandmaster just captured it not long ago. Wen Zhong exclaimed, it's a good treasure. This body, it's somewhere between an illusion. It looks a little similar to divine runes. It should be an ancient beast that targets the Sea of Will or divine runes. Su Yu nodded. Wen Zhong's eyes were sharp. He probably had not come into contact with little hairy ball before. To be able to see some abnormalities at a glance was already not simple. Wen Zhong sighed and did not say much. He followed Su Yu upstairs and said as they walked, then at your current stage, what is the direction that you want to develop the most? 360 yuan apertures. Su Yu thought for a moment and said, I'm thinking, after collecting 360 yuan apertures, can it form a cycle automatically? Or do I need to deduce it myself? If I want to deduce it. 360 yuan apertures combination. Su Yu had a slight headache and said, that's too difficult to deduce. It's as difficult as ascending to the heavens. There were countless methods to form the combination of 36 yuan apertures, not to mention 360 yuan apertures. Wen Zhong nodded, this is indeed a difficult problem. First of all, it's very difficult to collect all 360 yuan apertures. Of course, I've grasped quite a number of apertures over the years. After all, I've been studying them. I can compare them with what you've grasped later. In addition, if I can't form a large circle on my own initiative, the difficulty will skyrocket. Then, Wen Zhong smiled again and said, it is indeed very difficult, but according to our speculation, there must be some rules to form a cycle of 360 apertures. In fact, after mastering the apertures, the difficulty of deducing the cultivation method will be reduced. For example, the 144 apertures of the heaven-cleaving saber that you gave me do not need a cultivation method. It is possible to deduce the operating route. Wen Zhong smiled and said, for a powerful cultivation technique, the apertures used have a regular pattern. If you know the apertures, it will be much easier to deduce the cultivation technique because there are many patterns in it. You don't have to worry too much about this, but it will take some time. Su Yu smiled and said, then if you really find it, I'll have to trouble senior brother Wen. Very quickly, the two of them went up to the third floor. There were models on the third floor. The puppet models were not prepared by Hu Xianqing, but by Su Yu himself. They were all the models that Zhao Tianbing had sent over. When he saw these models, Wen Zhong's face lit up with joy as he said, there are many types of puppets in Daming Manor, and they are fine enough. However, there are not many experts in the weapon forging department of Daming Manor, so they are unable to create top-quality puppets. This puppet model of yours is probably made by Zhao Tianbing of the Great Zhou Manor. Senior brother, you have great foresight. Wen Zhong laughed, slightly pleased with himself. Of course, his foresight wasn't bad. Without wasting any more words, he picked up a puppet, he smiled and said, this is an essence aperture puppet. It's very fine. Suyu, actually, if you really find more than 350 essence apertures, it doesn't matter if you can't find the remaining ones. You can try to deduce their positions. I've already said that the more essence apertures you have, the more obvious the pattern will become. You might be able to deduce their positions. Of course, the risk isn't small. Suyu nodded and did not say anything more. He quickly started to point out the red dots on the puppet. Those were the acupoints that he had mastered. Soon, Wen Zhong's expression changed slightly. So many. In the end, Wen Zhong exclaimed, 346. Just based on this, the cultivation technique that you are familiar with might be even more than mine. You have seen a lot of it. Can you see it clearly? Have you opened all of them? Yes. Genius. Wen Zhong praised and exclaimed. A true genius had actually opened 346 yuan apertures. The outside world thought that Suyu had only opened about 300 yuan apertures. Although this was also more than 300 yuan, it was far beyond the imagination of the outside world. Wen Zhong looked for a while and started to point out one red dot after another. He said, I don't have as many yuan apertures as you, but there are a few that are different. Soon, he pointed out 7 different red dots. Only 7 are different. Suyu frowned slightly. That was 353. Wen Zhong could be considered a knowledgeable person, but in the end, he only knew 7 different locations of yuan apertures. Wen Zhong quickly said, if you don't mind, I can take this and ask a few people for you. They are all knowledgeable people, such as our Governor Niu, Director Ho, and the others. Actually, they are all extremely knowledgeable seniors. After saying that, he added, including the principal of Zhangjin College. The fighters know more about the essence aperture, so they can also ask for advice. Suyu hesitated and said, are they willing to give advice? Don't worry. It's not a big deal, and it doesn't involve any other secrets. Wen Zhong smiled and said, you haven't met the principal, right? You can take the opportunity to visit him. If there are some difficult things in the future, you can also find the principal to solve them. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1140. 1140 Chapter 273, Mansion Master Niu, you're really awesome, too. Then. I'll have to trouble you, senior brother. It's alright. That fusion technique of yours has also benefited me a lot. The two of them conversed for a while. Suyu had also decided that it was time to go and ask. There was no need to be afraid of losing face. In reality, he did not have much face to speak of. He had come to the Great Ming Mansion in order to strengthen himself. Since there was an opportunity, he would go and ask for advice. Suyu didn't delay. There was no saying that it was only a matter of time before he did his research. It just so happened that it was about time for dinner, when Zhong smiled and said, then let's find the right time. Let's go find the manor head now and bring a few bottles of good wine. Junior brother Su, if you want to survive in Daming Manor, senior brother will teach you a little. You have to prepare some good wine. There aren't many people in Daming Manor who don't like wine. Sometimes, a bottle of good wine is worth tens of millions of merit points. It's better than spending money. I understand. Suyu smiled. Perhaps I can sketch out some of the divine runes used to brew good wine. That's interesting. The good wine brewed by different divine runes is different. The one and only is the most precious. The two of them chatted and laughed. Su Yu shouted, "Wu Lan, settle your own dinner." Oh. On the other side, Wu Lan was still in the reference room reading up on information. She did not have the mood to pay attention to him at all. After replying, she no longer cared about him. Seeing this, Wen Zhong smiled and walked downstairs with Su Yu. As they walked, he smiled and said, "Hong Xiu adds fragrance. Junior brother is also an elegant person." That's true. Doing research alone is a little lonely in the end. Su Yu was helpless. He smiled bitterly and did not say much. Perhaps in the eyes of the old people of Daming Manor, this was the case. But in reality, when Wu Lan was reading, she did not pay attention to him at all. On the way, Su Yu bought a few bottles of good wine from the store in the academy. The price wasn't expensive, but it wasn't cheap either. It cost him 10 merit points. At this moment, the sky was already dark. Wen Zhong smiled and said, "The principal has just returned. He probably won't go out for the next 2 days. He has to busy himself with the matters of the academy. He should be at his home right now." Walking along the beautiful academy garden, there was a small bridge and flowing water ahead. A soothing music could be heard faintly. After walking for a while, Su Yu was surprised. There was actually a big lake in the campus. It was quite big. At least in the Great Xia Mansion, he rarely saw such a big lake, and it was in the campus. At this moment, he could vaguely see a small island in the middle of the big lake. Wen Zhong smiled and said, "The mansion master lives on the small island." This island was named Yuexin Island by the mansion master. After saying that, Wen Zhong suddenly shouted, "Old turtle, it's time to pick him up." As soon as he said that, the water in the lake churned. In the next moment, a huge turtle appeared. Xian turtle. Su Yu was stunned for a moment. He was a little surprised and, a little surprised. Xian turtle. Su Yu had asked Xia Huyo to buy the essence blood of this thing for a long time, but he had not been able to buy it. This could be considered a neutral race. The rotary turtle was not fond of battles. There were some in the heavenly battlefield, but they did not participate in many battles. They were extremely rare, even rarer than deities and demons. It was not because they were powerful or rare, but because the other party did not appear on the battlefield very often. Even though they had opened up a passageway, they still guarded the rotary turtle realm and did not go out much. Here, he actually saw a rotary turtle. And it was still alive. After sensing it for a bit, he was slightly surprised. It was the kind of turtle that wasn't weak. This huge rotary turtle glanced at Su Yu. Its huge eyes moved and it said with a smile, "Little one, is this a newcomer? I've never seen him before." A newcomer. Wen Zhong smiled and said, "Old turtle, send us to Yuexin Island. Is the prefect here?" "Yes." Wen Zhong stepped on the air and walked onto the back of the rotary turtle. Su Yu also hurriedly stepped on the air and stepped on it. The moment he stepped on it, he felt a heavy feeling. Su Yu stared at the turtle shell on its back. Wen Zhong smiled and said, "This is a rotary turtle that the manor head took in when he opened the manor. It has been in the academy for more than 300 years now. If we go to the Pleasant Heart Island, the old turtle will have to send us there. Otherwise, we will easily be regarded as intruders." Under his seat, the rotary turtle quickly swam toward the Pleasant Heart Island. At this moment, it also opened its mouth and said with a smile, "Little one is here. Otherwise, I, the old turtle, will not be able to escort everyone. Since the new bee is here, don't you have any benefits?" Wen Zhong smiled and said, "Junior brother Su, give it a bottle of wine. Old turtle, remember junior brother Su's aura. You may come often in the future." The rotary turtle's laughter rang out. Su Yu did not say much and threw out a bottle of wine. In the next moment, the bottle was suspended in the air, and the fragrance of the wine spread out. The old turtle swam as it drank. He said somewhat fastidiously, "It's not too good, but it's still barely passable." "Little rookie, why are you always staring at my turtle shell?" Su Yu smiled and did not care. He opened his mouth and said, "Senior. Just call me the old turtle. There's no need for senior." Su Yu did not reply and continued, "Senior, if I remember correctly, according to the records of the Rotary Turtle clan, their defense is extremely strong. I would like to ask if this is a talent or if it's a body forging technique that makes your body incomparably strong." After saying that, he continued, "Compared to the iron-eating beasts, is the Rotary Turtle clan's defense stronger or the iron-eating beasts stronger?" The Rotary Turtle was stunned for a moment, then it smiled and said, "This isn't easy to compare. What we are strong in is our defense. In fact, it can be considered a talent, as well as the innate strength of the turtle shell. The iron-eating beasts, that should be related to the body-forging technique." Su Yu understood and did not hide it. He directly asked, "Senior, is it Lingyun or the mountain and sea realm?" He couldn't tell. "I guess you can be considered to have just entered the mountain and sea realm." Su Yu bared his teeth. It was true. He had been taken in by the mansion master since he opened the mansion. After 300 years, he had just entered the mountain and sea realm. It was considered normal, but he was actually still weak. "Senior, do you have any blood essence that you left behind when you were weak? You can trade it with me. I have actually been looking for the blood essence of the Rotary Turtle for a long time." You're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1141. 1141 Chapter 273, Manor Head Nyo. He's really awesome. 3. The Rotary Turtle sighed. "I can feel it. The aura of your blood essence is too dense. It reminds me of someone. Hong Tan. Your lineage is researching the innate blood essence, right?" "Yes." It wasn't strange that Hong Tan had been here before. Furthermore, this was the first-generation manor head. It had been more than 300 years, and this Rotary Turtle had received countless important figures. "You want to study my innate skill?" The Rotary Turtle smiled and said, "My innate skill is defense. If you don't have a turtle shell, it might not be suitable for you." Su Yu nodded and said, "I understand that. However, if I extract my innate skill, it might be of some help to me. The blood essence of a weak child, how can it be preserved during a weak child? If you want to exchange it, I can condense a drop of blood essence for you. However, you seem peaceful, and your killing intent is too strong. In the future, if you encounter my clansmen in the heavenly battlefield, please don't kill too much." Su Yu smiled. "Senior, you misunderstood. I only drew the word, kill, I don't have the heart to kill." The Rotary Turtle didn't say anything. It had lived for a very long time. Don't even think about lying to the old turtle. It was a natural-born killer. Su Yu said again, "It's still very difficult for me to extract the mountain and sea blood essence. I'll let it go for now. Senior, don't worry. If you have any requests, feel free to ask. A drop of blood essence will greatly damage Senior's vitality. If Senior makes a request, I'll see if I can satisfy Senior. We'll see. If you need anything, you can come and find me." The Rotary Turtle didn't make any requests, and Su Yu also found it very difficult to provide what it needed. He was only thinking about how many murders this person would commit when he entered the heavenly battlefield in the future. While they were talking, they arrived at Yueshin Island. At this moment, Niu Baidao wasn't resting in his mansion on the island. Instead, he was setting up a big table outside his mansion. At this moment, there was an endless stream of puppets that looked like real people serving food to him. There were many dishes. The table was dozens of meters long, and Niu Baidao was tasting the dishes one by one. Ignoring Su Yu and Wen Zhong, he said, "No, the taste isn't right. It's not the same as the one I had at the Great Han Palace. It needs to be improved. This dish isn't bad. It has some of the charm of the Great Qin Palace." Niu Baidao was eating when he turned to look at the two of them and said, "Let's try it together." "Greetings, Principal." "You're welcome." Niu Baidao did not say much and continued to eat. The puppets also continued to serve the dishes. Niu Baidao smiled and said, "This is prepared for the following 10,000 food festival. It will be the 10,000 food festival in a few days. Little Su Yu, remember to participate." Su Yu was puzzled. What was this? Wen Zhong smiled and explained, "Every year on January 28th, it is the 10,000 food festival of the university. Of course, there are too many festivals in the university, so you don't have to pay too much attention to it. There is also the 100 Flowers Festival, Wine Tasting Festival, Beast Festival, Moon Appreciation Festival, Immortal Music Festival." Su Yu felt that he really had to study it carefully. The Daming Academy really knew how to play, and there were still such messy festivals. As if he knew what he was thinking, Niu Baidao smiled and said, "Combining work and rest, cultivating the Tao and cultivating the heart is too tiring. Cultivating everything doesn't go smoothly, the heart is calm, and cultivating everything goes smoothly." After Niu Baidao finished speaking, he smiled again and said, "That's how people are. When things go smoothly, they have a smooth journey. When things don't go well, things don't go as planned. The Great Xia manner cultivates the body while the Great Ming manner cultivates the heart. It's not the same path, and there's no right or wrong. They just choose different paths." Su Yu nodded. "I've learned my lesson." Niu Baidao pressed his hand, he smiled and said, "Eat something. In life, there's always something to pursue. If you don't have any desires, then you're a saint. The desire to eat is also a type of enjoyment. Let me ask you, did you conquer all the clans and cultivate painstakingly just for the sake of asceticism? Wrong, it was for the sake of enjoying more." Su Yu said in a deep voice, "Enjoyment, in my opinion, is also something in the future." There were some things that he did not agree with, but of course, it did not mean that he opposed it. He just did not want others to impose their Tao on him. Niu Baidao did not care and continued eating. Wen Zhong also began to eat, laughing as he watched the two of them argue. Niu Baidao smiled and said, "For you, it's a matter of the future, but for me, it's a matter of the present. I'm already over 400 years old, and soon I'll be 500 years old. How long do I have left? Isn't it my duty to eat and drink? It's my duty. Then isn't it done?" Niu Baidao wiped his hands and sat down. He gestured for Su Yu to sit down and said with a smile, "Little guy, relax. The sky hasn't collapsed yet. Don't really think that the sky is going to collapse. We are still enjoying it. The human race is very powerful and invincible. If the sky is really going to fall, do you think there will be internal strife? Everyone knows and sees the threat of the god and demon race, but why are they still fighting? Because it is not the time yet." Niu Baidao said with a smile, "The human race also has great potential. Many people actually have hope of becoming invincible in the Tao. It is just that the timing is not right and the time is not right. They are all hiding. I know about the Great Xia Mansion's matters. I also know about your two teachers' matters." Niu Baidao chuckled and said, "Going to the heavenly battlefield is not a bad thing. Don't worry too much." Su Yu nodded and did not say anything else. Niu Baidao continued, "Your top priority is to take care of your own matters and improve yourself. There's no need to worry about others. It's good to have a sense of crisis, but don't think that only you can save the human race." Niu Baidao said playfully, "When the human race is in danger and only you can save them, in my opinion, there's no need to save them. There are countless experts in the huge human race, but in the end, they can only rely on you, Su Yu. If that's the case, then it's over. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1142. 1142 Chapter 273, Governor Niu, you're really awesome. 4. Su Yu shook his head. When I was in a secondary school, including when I was young, I thought of great things. I thought of fighting for the human race, fighting for justice. Now, I don't think about these things. I think of fighting for my family, for my friends, for my teachers, to destroy the enemy. People's thoughts would change. When he was young, he was hot-blooded, ambitious, and fought for the human race. This was the philosophy that his father instilled in him. When he really entered the Civilization Academy, his mentality had changed time and time again. This is enough. Niu Baidao smiled and said, fighting for the people that you want to protect, this is enough. For the human race, for the human realm, it's too empty. Not everyone in the human race is worthy of your protection. This is actually the perspective of a normal person. Moreover, is the human race righteous? He smiled and said, not necessarily. The gods and demons invaded us, and we invaded the small clans. It's actually no different. We don't need to flatter ourselves. The weak are prey to the strong. How can we say that we are righteous? Niu Baidao picked up the wine Su Yu brought, opened it, and took a sip. He shook his head and said, just as so. Next time, bring some treasures. Don't be too stingy. People like us study, decipher, and fight, generally speaking, for fame, for profit, and to protect our family members. There are very few people who don't have any desires. If they really don't have any desires, then they're not human. Even a saint has a request. Take you for example. Today, you came to deliver the wine. You must have a request, right? Yes. Su Yu also smiled and nodded. Principal, I'm here to ask for your guidance. That's what I said. Niu Baidao laughed again. He drank his wine and said lazily, ask away. I'll tell you what I know. Su Yu took out his puppet. Niu Baidao looked at it and quickly said, ask me where my acupuncture points are. Yes. I know 4 more. I don't know anything else. After saying that, he instantly lit up 4 red dots. At this point, Su Yu had mastered 357 acupuncture points. Niu Baidao thought for a moment and said, it's not easy for you to open 360 acupoints. As for the last 3. When you have time, you should go to the Bai family and ask. That fellow Bai Tianhao opened quite a few acupoints back then. He might not have reached 360 acupoints, but he should have opened some secret acupoints. Bai family. Su Yu hesitated and said, I'm Bai Feng Laosher's student, so the Bai family should also know about it. However, even when Bai Junqing saw me, he didn't mention to invite me to visit the Bai family. Is it inappropriate for me to go? Niu Baidao chuckled and said, young man, don't worry too much. If the Bai family doesn't invite you, you can go by yourself. Also, it's best if you can come up with some results in the near future. It's a slap in the face. Niu Baidao laughed and said, it's best if you pop up from time to time. Don't let the great Xia Manor forget about you. It's not to attract anyone's attention, but to let the world see that you, Su Yu, have not reached your limit. People are forgetful. When you reach your limit, many people will feel that it doesn't matter if they lose you. At this moment, you pop up from time to time. You will stab people's hearts time and time again, letting people remember you, know of your existence, and remember your existence. Niu Baidao smiled and said, making a name for yourself is still useful. The more famous you are, the greater the shift in the balance of the scales for many people. Now, because you have lost a sun and moon, some people are not involved. From the perspective of a bystander, they will feel that you have gone too far. Can you not tolerate such a small matter? Suyu frowned and said, the sun and moon killing me is also a small matter. Because they are bystanders. Niu Baidao smiled and said, it is commonly known that it is easy to talk while standing. In other words, now that a genius of the great Zhou manner is being chased by a sun and moon, this genius has found someone to kill the sun and moon instead. From your perspective, what do you think of this matter? Suyu thought for a moment and said, in any case, I have not suffered a loss, so it is not a big deal. Actually, it is fine if I don't kill them. I might as well send them to the heavenly battlefield to kill the enemy. The battle prowess of the sun and moon is not weak. That's right. Niu Baidao smiled and said, you're very smart. That's very interesting. This is what a bystander looks like. Therefore, there was a group of people who stood there and spoke without thinking twice. They felt that Jin Yuhui shouldn't be killed. Even if he was punished to go to the vanguard battalion, he would still be a good blade to kill the enemy. And now, you want to reverse this impression and let people know that this stupid bird Jin Yuhui wants to kill you. He deserves to die. Niu Baidao laughed and said, killing you is a heinous crime. It's unforgivable. Some of the originally neutral invincible fighters who were the most angry had shifted. F***ck, how could Suyu die? A bunch of idiots. They can even change the impression to a point where you are more important than an invincible fighter. Niu Baidao's smile was brilliant, being weak is nothing. Being weak doesn't mean that you can't do something. When you're valued by some unrivaled experts and feel that you're worthy of being replaced by an unrivaled expert, then things will be easier. Some troubles are no longer troubles. There's no need for you to make a move. Someone will chop off some people's heads and send them to you. Let me tell you, Suyu, don't mind them. These people are all idiots. If we kill them, you can come and check if the standards for chopping off their heads are up to standard. Suyu was deep in thought. Then, does Principal know about the splitting of the divine runes? That won't do. Niu Baidao said directly, that won't do. This won't attract the attention of the invincible human race, but the invincible human race. Niu Baidao indeed knew, he said directly, things like the convergence technique can be done, but those things can't, at least not now. The 10,000 races are very wary of the multiple divine runes. We can see this point. It may be related to divine runes battle techniques, it may be related to being invincible in the path of Tao. Of course, everyone is pretending to be ignorant about this now. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1143. 1143 Chapter 273, Manor Head Nyo, you're really awesome. 5. Don't provoke the myriad clans at this time. It's meaningless. What you need to do is to establish your own prestige and prestige. Niu Baidao was teaching him, and Suyu kept nodding his head. You can take out the cultivation technique of the God Convergence Aperture, and you can even take out a 36 God Convergence Aperture's basic text formula, and spread it in Daming Manor. Remember, don't spread it to other big manors. This way, people will come and beg you. He smiled and said, no, you can authorize the Zhu family to come and beg Mansion Master Zhu. You don't have to care about them. Just be your researcher. That's enough. The Zhu family will do their best to protect you, while the others will be tricked time and time again. They will think that it's all the good work of the great Xia Mansion's single divine text department. As he said that, he added, or, you can make a restriction. Many large manors of the divine text department can spread it, but if they don't, they can't. Putting the single divine literature department on the opposite side of everyone again and again. Oh right, don't involve the entire single divine literature department. Focus on the great Xia department. Suyu once again fell into deep thought. This manor head was really interesting. However, what he said seemed to make a lot of sense. Niu Bendao smiled again and said, right now, what's chaotic is actually the discovery realm. It's a civilized master, not a warrior. I think you can rope in the warriors, rope in the commoners, and even spread some cultivation techniques that are more important to everyone for free, but it's not troublesome. You can all go and cultivate them. Of course, if the primordial spirit aperture comes out and you spread this, TSK, everyone will have to call you the father of the primordial spirit. Niu Baidao's smile became even brighter. This is how the hearts of the people are turned. At that time, you will be justice, and what you Suyu said will be justice. You will be the moral high ground. Whoever goes against you will be a traitor. If the invincible human race wants to kill you, then he will be an absolute traitor. The people's will is the trend, and you will have to kill him or not. Even if someone objects, whoever objects will be a traitor's accomplice. Niu Baidao's smile was incomparably brilliant, and his old face was about to split open. Young man, you are a smart person, or else you wouldn't have come to Deming Mansion. And as a smart person, don't go to the ends of the earth. Do you have to be invincible to kill invincible? Who set the rules? Who said that? Wasn't it tiring to hold it in? Wasn't it tiring to hold it in? The more talented one was, the easier it was to be stubborn. For example, Lu Wenyan and the others, they lived very tiring lives. Lu Wenyan's whole family has been almost killed. Was it an accident? It's hard to say. If he holds it in, if he doesn't make a fuss, if he doesn't speak, if he doesn't cry, how can a child eat milk? Does the human race know about the achievements of the Lu family? A small number of people know, but most people don't. And this small number of people don't say anything because it has nothing to do with them. Niu Baidao shook his head, a genius. He doesn't know how to cry. He only thinks about revenge and does it himself. He's not a smart person. He lacks great wisdom. He has to cry. He has to let the billions of human realm people know how much the Lu family has sacrificed for the human race, and how unfair it has been. He threatened the general situation and threatened the invincible. If he, Lu Wenyan, had raised his arm a few decades ago, there would have been many people who knew about him. Now, forget it, not many people know about him. But you are different. You are a popular genius now. You have to let your fame rise day by day. At that time, your fame will be enough to kill people. Su Yu's eyes gradually lit up. Yes, he was thinking that he was strong enough to help his teacher and the others to deal with the hidden invincible. But Principal Niu was right. How long would it take for me to become invincible? When and how long would it take? Fame could kill people. He had killed Jin Yuhui and the others this time because of his fame. If he was a nobody, would Zhu Tiandao kill Jin Yuhui for him? Impossible. He had thought wrongly. What he had done before was actually the right thing. He had borrowed power, borrowed a knife, and killed 2 suns, moons, and more than 10 mountains and seas. This was the real ability. Thank you, Principal Niu. Su Yu has learned a lot. Su Yu was sincerely grateful. Principal Niu was the guiding light of life. It wasn't a conspiracy. This was an open conspiracy, a general trend. The prerequisite was that Su Yu was outstanding enough to let the entire human realm know and value him. Niu Bendao drank his wine, he sighed and said, "It's good that you understand. Don't think too much. Daming Prefecture is a good choice for you. Here, there are people who will protect you and have the courage to protect you. Of course, they also have the ability to protect you. Young man, turn yourself into justice. Don't learn from some people and become enemies with the world. The world is wrong. I am right. Even if you are right, you are also wrong. Since you are unable to oppose the world, then lead them. Ordinary people, including many experts, do not understand. They are just following the general trend. You, on the other hand, can become the current of the waves. Anyone who opposes you is your enemy. They are the enemies of the world. This is the path that you must take. Su Yu nodded continuously. I've really learned my lesson. Nyo Mansion Master is really awesome. These words have cleared the clouds and cleared the fog. Back then, Lu Laoshi should have come here to ask for guidance. Perhaps today is a completely different result. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1144. 1144 Chapter 274 Secrets of the Acupuncture Points 1. On Yueshin Island. Su Yu kept reflecting on himself. In fact, he had planned to do so from the start. In the end, he was too angry and too disappointed, so he changed his strategy time and time again. In the end, he lost his heart. At this moment, he could not defeat those people. He had to talk about strategy. It was great to kill them with real weapons, but didn't he not have the strength to do so now? Understood. Su Yu muttered and quickly said, Principal, then what kind of cultivation technique do you think can cause a sensation, the basic script? That's for sure. Niu Baidao smiled and said, but there is one point, the basic script can only make people who are in the air return to their hearts. After all, cultivation techniques below 72 God apertures are useless to people who are in the air. What about those with 108 God apertures? This. Niu Baidao secretly gritted his teeth and said with a smile on his face, this is not bad. But many people might not be able to open so many God apertures. It can only be said that a portion of geniuses might switch to cultivation. As he said that, Niu Baidao said with a smile, young man, don't be anxious. Take your time. Don't release things all at once. Release one every 3 to 5 times. If you release it all at once, it will be worthless. What powerful combat techniques or godly techniques do you have? You can also release a few. It's best if it's those, Niu Baidao thought for a moment and said, those combat techniques that you can use without opening a few more apertures. Do you have any? Yes. Su Yu nodded. He had this. He knew too many cultivation techniques. Some of the apertures had a high degree of overlap with some of the basic cultivation techniques. Su Yu thought for a moment and said, there are some that can calm the mind, some that can recover from injuries, and a few that can accelerate the absorption of yuan qi. Cough cough cough. Niu Baidao was drinking wine. At this moment, he choked and remained calm, he maintained his smile and said, that's not bad. You can release some of them appropriately. Right now, you are quite famous. The convergence technique will soon show its effects. When the effects of the convergence technique are shown, you will be even more famous. If you release a batch of cultivation techniques at this time, many people will believe you. Understood. Niu Baidao said with a smile, create the Primordial Spirit Research Institute and create the golden name of researcher Su Yu. Su Yu's products must be of high quality. If this goes on, it won't be long before you're a human realm saint. One day, your cultivation technique will become the standard of the academy, and you'll be a winner in life. Su Yu said hesitantly, then, the founders of the origin opening technique back then aren't very famous now. Stupid. Niu Baidao said unhappily, those people didn't know that it would be popular in the beginning, so they were directly bought out. How could they promote them with a greater momentum? For example, the War God technique was introduced by the War God Hall, and the 10,000 Literature Sutra was introduced by the Seeker Realm. You have to have a signature. Let people know that the thing came from the Primordial Spirit Research Institute, and the owner of the Primordial Spirit Research Institute is Su Yu. This is called a brand. Su Yu nodded. That's right. Fortunately, he had mentioned to Lord Xiaohu previously that the fusion technique had to be labeled as coming from the Primordial Spirit Research Institute. Otherwise, as time passed, many people would forget about it. In the end, everyone would remember that this was introduced by the Xia family and not Su Yu. Time would erase everything. Manor head, I understand. Niu Bendao nodded and stroked his beard. His face was full of smiles. This young man was worth teaching. Zhu Tiandao also had to thank himself. Look, this kid should be able to produce some results very soon. When he came to Daming Manor, he didn't leave behind any good things. How could he let people run away just like that? He took the initiative to take it out, and he even took it out in high spirits. This was called ability. Su Yu was a little hesitant again. That's too conspicuous. Could it be? Niu Baidao comforted him, it's fine. As long as it's not something that can make an invincible person go crazy, even if it affects the sun and moon, it doesn't matter too much. Do you really think that the Darming King is a vegetarian? Niu Baidao laughed, the Darming King has nothing to ask for. Do you understand? In the various manners, the Darming King's strength was considered top-notch invincible, but he didn't have much of a need for it. This was different from the others, including the Great Qin King. The Great Qin King could be considered the strongest invincible, but the Great Qin Manor also had a few peak 9th level sun-moon cultivators. At this moment, they all have some freedom. As for the Great Ming King, Niu Bidao chuckled and said, our manor head Zhu has only entered the 9th level of the sun-moon not too long ago, and from the looks of it, there's no hope of being invincible. Other than manor head Zhu, the Great Ming Manor doesn't even have a 9th level of the sun-moon, sigh. With a sigh, it was a pity that they were weak. Su Yu glanced at Niu Bidao and asked in surprise, are there many 9th level sun-moon cultivators in the other manors? There are more or less 1 or 2 of them, and we have one as well. Isn't manor head Zhu one of them? But our Daming Manor, the Daming King, is one of the top 5 most powerful and invincible manors. Just one 9th level sun-moon cultivator, it's indeed a little embarrassing. Su Yu suddenly understood. With that said, he felt that they were weak. Actually, the Daming Manor was not weaker than some of the weaker manors, but the key was that the Daming King was strong. Such a strong Daming King, with weak descendants and weak manners, was really shameless. Then what if the Mansion Master proves his Tao in the future? Su Yu was thinking, what if he offended too many people, what if he proves his Tao in the future? Niu Bendao chuckled and said, then we'll think of a way ourselves. If it doesn't work, then we won't prove our Tao. Just our Mansion Master, he might not be able to prove his Tao, right? It made sense, but it was a pity that the eldest son of the Daming King died too tragically, too early. Su Yu subconsciously had this thought. It was really not intentional. It was just that many people had said it, and he could not help but have this thought. Unfortunately, the eldest son of Daming King had died at the age of 9. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1145. 1145 Chapter 274 Secrets of the Acupuncture Points 2. In the next moment, he felt that something was amiss. Why did he feel that Zhu Tiandao, who was at the 9th level of the sun and moon, was inferior to a 9-year-old Qianjun? How was this concept born? Did he read it in a book? Did the others keep mentioning it? Was Zhu Tiandao himself saying it? Was the Great Ming King crying miserably everywhere? Or, what was the situation? Manor head, let me ask you one more thing. Is there anything in the Darming Manor that can increase one's willpower? There are a lot of them. Niu Bendao said in surprise, you don't know. Su Yu was speechless. I don't know. Drinking, eating, reading, listening to music. Niu Bendao said faintly, which one of them doesn't increase one's willpower? It's an unorthodox method. When a person focuses on one thing, this is a hobby, willpower, and self-understanding. Putting in and drilling in, this is the way to improve willpower. You don't think that legends are really legends, do you? All 100 arts can prove the Tao. 1 day in the sky, 3 days in the mountains and seas, 10 days in the sun and the moon, seeing the sun and the moon, appearing eternally. This is a legend, not a legend. Su Yu was slightly stunned. Where did your innate divine text come from? At this moment, Niu Ben Dao stood up. He looked like an immortal from another world. I came from understanding myself. Since you can give birth to innate divine text, have you ever had a moment where you suddenly felt refreshed, and your willpower burst forth, instantly increasing? Yes. Su Yu nodded. There had been. For example, last time, the fire character divine text advanced like this. Of course, there was also the Yin character, which was an accident. That's right. Niu Ben Dao smiled and said, all arts are Tao. We civilized masters cultivate the heart. Ask Wen Zhong if they cultivate naturally. Not forcing, of course, not forcing doesn't mean that they don't cultivate. The Great Ming Mansion's Tao is actually correct. It's just that it's a little too lazy. This is the drawback. There was a drawback, he admitted. However, the cultivation of the civilized masters of the Great Ming Mansion was not quite the same as the others. In Niu Baidao's view, this was the Tao. If not for that, why would there be 100 arts in the founding of the civilized academy in the past? Why don't we just focus on the warrior Tao and the path of divine literature instead of beast taming and pill refinement? Niu Baidao chuckled and said, Su Yu, don't keep thinking that only the Great Xia Mansion's Tao is correct. You have to change your mind. Su Yu, thank you for your teachings. That night, Su Yu and Niu Bidao chatted for a long time. They felt that this civilized mansion master of the Great Ming Mansion might seem simple, but he was not that simple. He was too ancient. He was the same batch of people as the invincible ones from back then. The founding elders. They were more than 400 years old. This could be considered the oldest batch of people in the current human race, right? Su Yu left with relief and satisfaction. Not long after he left, the old turtle climbed onto the shore and looked at Niu Bendao dancing and singing. He couldn't help but say, ox-nosed, are you fooling people again? That's not true. Niu Bendao laughed and said, old turtle, let's dance. Let's celebrate. Next, I'm going to earn money. Earn money? That's right. Su Yu is a member of the Daming Civilization Academy after all. If he submits a cultivation technique, 10% of the profits will be from the academy. Didn't he see that? The old turtle went into the water again. Niu Baidao didn't mind it, he laughed and said, these are the rules. The Daming Civilization Academy has been open for hundreds of years. It's always like this. I said it. Just one genius will be enough to keep the school running for many years. Old turtle, we've made some money this time. I'll buy you a little female turtle. No need. What about the 5? After a long while, the old turtle stuck his head out of the lake. I want a spinning turtle. Sure. You have to keep your word. As soon as the old turtle finished speaking, one turtle after another stuck their heads out of the lake. There were so many of them that it was frightening. From Qianjun to 10,000 stone, 10,000 stone to the sky, sky to Lingyun mountains and seas, all have. What a sight! The whole lake, at this moment, is full of turtles. A mother turtle angrily said, you old cow nose, and encourage my family old turtle take concubines. Niu Baidao laughed and said, that's not true. How is that egging? Old turtle is not good this way, how can have you, look, this revolving turtle family, nearly thousands, every year eat my drink my, what did I say? Are you old turtle's 8th wife? TSK, you're already so old. No wonder old turtle wants to take a concubine. Bastard. The female turtle was furious. Niu Baidao laughed and said, don't be angry, don't be angry. Oh right, that young man, you guys can give him a few drops of blood essence for free. Old turtle, you pretended to be so miserable. I thought your family didn't have little turtle anymore. Old turtle sighed and said, it's easy to get, but you don't cherish it. Forget it. If it doesn't work, I'll give him a drop of my blood essence. It's also good to do him a favor. That's true. Niu Baidao chuckled, it seems like you learned something from me. Forget it, let's not talk about this. Old turtle, I'm going to dig a ring-shaped river near Su Yu's research institute and have your little turtle move over there. Okay. The old turtle agreed readily. He was complaining that the lake was not big enough. It was simple to be a guardian beast. The rotary turtle clan did not have anything else, but there were many small turtles. Niu Baidao no longer cared about it. He continued to sing and dance. The turtles in the lake also quickly dived down and disappeared. Their auras could not be sensed anymore. At this moment, Su Yu was already far away from the big lake. After walking for a while, he suddenly said, Senior Brother One, do you feel that something is wrong? What? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1146. 1146 Chapter 274, Secrets of the Acupuncture Points 3. There seems to be something staring at me in the lake. Is there a demon beast in the lake? I think so. Wen Zhong smiled and said, that's normal. There are actually quite a number of demons in our academy. The Great Xia Mansion officially accepted them as students, but not us. Some of them were caught and casually threw them away. They might have grown up later on. Su Yu was speechless. Casually tossed away. Weren't they afraid of hurting others? When Zhong saw that he was about to speak, he smiled and said, it's fine. The academy also has experts and a great formation. The academy's strongest force is the 100 Paths Pavilion. This heaven-ranked literary soldier isn't just for show. There aren't many heaven-ranked literary soldiers in the entire human realm. Those who have the ability to defend themselves can explode with the might of the sun and moon. Su Yu was surprised. They activated it on their own initiative? Yes. That would be amazing. Su Yu thought for a moment and said, Senior Brother, I have another question. I saw something when I looked at the rules of the academy. The academy is above the pavilion elders, and there's also the Bright Heart Hall. What is that? Oh, that's a place to retire. When Zhong smiled and said, if it's clearly separated, then it's the sun and moon. Didn't you know that? Our great Ming mansion is the mansion master of a generation. We don't suffer too much loss of civilized masters. There are still a few sun and moon powerhouses. However, they don't appear too often. They usually retire and don't take on the roles of a cabinet elder or deputy mansion master. Therefore, the mansion master has built a Bright Heart Hall for them to retire. Sun and Moon Realm. Su Yu was surprised. Other than our mansion master, there are other sun and moon realms? Of course. Wen Zhong smiled. Of course. We have lived for a long time. Ling Yun has lived for nearly 400 years, let alone others. It seems like there are 4 or 5 elders in Bright Heart Hall now. I'm not too sure about that. I don't know if anyone has died. After all, they are not young anymore. Even though they have lived for a long time, some of them were still injured in the past. Su Yu frowned and said, then the Great Xia Mansion. Don't mention the Great Xia Mansion. When Zhong shook his head, the Great Xia Mansion is very strong, especially strong. Don't you think about how many experts the 5 generations took away? How many experts died in the battle 50 years ago? Even so, how many experts are there in the Great Xia Mansion? Take the Sun and Moon realm as an example. The one Tianxing should be Jin Yuhui, Zhou Mingren, Hong Tan, and the principal Lu of the Tao Seeking Institute. They are either the Sun and the Moon or close to the Sun and the Moon. They are all young. It's only because Lu Wenyan's generation was crippled in the past few decades that there was a gap. Otherwise, Lu Wenyan, Hu Ping, Zhao Mingyue, and Xia Yinqi would have been able to see the Sun and Moon. In fact, it's already the Sun and Moon. Think about it, isn't it strong? The Great Xia Manor has even lost a few Sun and Moon cultivators in the past few years. If we calculate it, if nothing happens and no one dies, the Great Xia Manor alone has more than 10 Sun and Moon cultivators from the Institute of Civilization. In addition, Xia Shaoer and the others are also from the Great Xia Civilization Academy. Wen Zhong smiled and said, therefore, it's true that the Great Xia Mansion is strong, and it's true that many people have died. No matter what, it's also the birthplace of the many divine languages. After saying that, he added, don't worry about this. There are still some human Sun and Moon cultivators. In the past few years, some of them have been stuck at the peak of the mountain and sea realm. However, it has only been 50 years, 1/7 of the Anping calendar. Then wouldn't there be more Sun and Moon for the gods and demons? So you thought of this, when Zhong smiled and said, there are quite a number of them, but it wouldn't be to the extent of saying that there are a lot of them. The main reason is that the gods and demons have long lifespans. If their lifespans are longer, their cultivation will also be slower. In fact, if we really talk about people of the same age, the human race will completely crush them. This cannot be compared. Suyu nodded and did not ask any more questions. These were not things that he was in charge of right now. His priority right now was to quickly gather the 360 yuan apertures. It was to quickly create some commotion and make his name known. In the next few days, Suyu opened his yuan apertures while copying cultivation techniques. He was still devouring the blood essence and continuously opening up cultivation techniques. He knew a lot of cultivation techniques, but he had not sorted them out in the past. Now that he had sorted out one cultivation technique after another, he was just short of making up some narrative chapters of cultivation techniques. Among them, the most powerful ones were the heaven-ranked cultivation techniques. Heavenly Dragon Technique has 144 openings, top heaven-ranked. Thousand Mountain Technique and Heaven Cleaving Blade are both top heaven-ranked cultivation techniques, with 144 openings. Body Strengthening Technique is at heaven-ranked primary level, but it's the best cultivation technique for opening openings. Time is a combat technique, it can't be taught to others. There are still a few godly techniques, godly aperture combat techniques. Suyu looked at the densely packed cultivation techniques in front of him and was slightly shocked. He didn't feel anything if he didn't organize them. When he organized them, he had already mastered more than 10 heaven-rank cultivation techniques and martial techniques. There were countless earth-rank cultivation techniques. Adding them together, he had mastered more than 500 cultivation techniques of 10,000 races. In addition, he also had many human cultivation techniques. In total, Suyu knew more than 1,000 cultivation techniques. Among them, many cultivation techniques were treasures in the eyes of outsiders. Not to mention, there are a few that are actually quite suitable for dissemination, for example, the body strengthening technique. The body strengthening technique had 126 yuan openings, which could be considered a mid-grade heaven-rank cultivation technique. It was already very good. The first level of 14 openings, each opening could accelerate the speed of opening the openings, which was extremely suitable for those genius students to cultivate. They were talking about ordinary geniuses, not those freaks. One must know that many freak students only cultivated the 108 aperture war god technique. There was no other reason. The opening of the aperture was a little slow, and many civilized teachers didn't want to waste too much time. It was just 18 more apertures. Cultivating the body strengthening technique and the war god technique should be about the same time, but in the end, 18 more apertures were opened. The physical body was stronger, and the battle prowess was stronger. Su Yu was sure that if this cultivation technique were to be spread out, in the future, genius students and upper-class students would almost all choose this cultivation technique. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1147. 1147 Chapter 274 Secrets of the Apertures 4. Unless that person was an idiot, why would he cultivate the Aries art when the timing was the same as cultivating this? However, the Aries art has a matching martial technique, but the body strengthening art doesn't. It's best to create a matching martial technique. It's actually quite simple. Mountain Shattering Bull's Mountain Shattering Blow is a matching martial technique, but it's too easy for others to see through it. I need to change my appearance. The mountain breaking technique was the innate skill of the mountain breaking ox clan. There were quite a few openings as well. They were all the openings in the body strengthening art. There were 108 openings, and a matching martial technique usually had fewer openings than a cultivation technique. Unless one cultivated it to the highest level, then a cultivation technique could be equivalent to a martial technique. This is suitable for geniuses. Su Yu had chosen the body strengthening art as the next cultivation technique. To ordinary martial artists, this wouldn't do. It's best to find a cultivation technique that matches the convergence technique. The one with an extremely high degree of overlap, the one with 36 apertures that can both converge and advance. Su Yu looked through the cultivation technique manuals. Which cultivation technique was most suitable for the aperture technique? For ordinary commoners, after cultivating, opening 36 apertures wasn't a big problem. They didn't need to open any additional apertures and quickly converge. Without wasting any time, they almost directly skipped the 10,000 stone stage. This was great news for countless commoner cultivators. Even if I can't open up 36 apertures, I'll have to open up at least 30 of them. If that doesn't work, I can modify them according to the cultivation technique I have, the one closest to it. He continued to browse through the information. He was prepared to impart the highest version of the acupoint convergence technique to the public. If he were to combine it with a cultivation technique with multiple acupoints convergence, Su Yu was certain that it would cause a huge commotion among the masses. Skip a stage. The merging of the apertures was very fast. With 36 apertures, 4 apertures were merged into one. According to the speed of the merging of the apertures, even if it was a commoner, they would be able to complete the 10,000 stone one overlapping apertures within 3 to 5 days. Within a month or so, they would be able to advance from 1,000 tons to the 9th level of the 10,000 stone. However, at that time, I'm afraid that everyone will not be satisfied with a cultivation technique with 36 apertures. Forget it, I'll add a few more versions. It would be best if there is a cultivation technique with 72 apertures. Su Yu rummaged through it, and very quickly, he found a cultivation technique with an extremely high overlap. Yellow silkworm arts. Su Yu recalled for a moment. The subsidiary race of the dragon silkworm race, a small race, had a cultivation technique that wasn't very good. It had 36 apertures, a yellow-grade cultivation technique, but it had a very high overlap with the top-tier version of the convergence technique. With 27 apertures overlapped, it meant that another 9 apertures would be opened, and a total of 45 apertures would be opened. Su Yu quickly followed the cultivation method's route and operated these 36 acupoints. The power of a single strike was not weak. Of course, to Su Yu, it was too weak. He thought for a moment and tried the 1000 June formula again to see if the power would decrease. Otherwise, if this thing was not as good as the 1000 June formula, then it would not be useful. The 1000 June formula exploded, and with a boom, Su Yu felt it for a moment and muttered, "No, it's a little weak." The yellow silkworm formula is a little weaker, and the 1000 June formula is more suitable for humans. But it can be modified. It's just a yellow rank cultivation method. There are too many people on Daming's side who can be modified. If we combine it with the acupoint fusion art, we can even directly deduce it from the 36 acupoints of the acupoint fusion art. Perhaps we can deduce a cultivation method. Thinking of this, Suyu hurriedly walked out. Just as he walked out, Wulan also walked out of the information room. She yawned, her hair was messy, and her eyes were a little dark. When she saw Suyu, she hurriedly said, "Suyu, I've sorted out the information on the Great Xia Manor and the Great Ming Manor. I've also sorted out my essence aperture. Also, I've discovered something. Come and take a look." Suyu asked curiously, "What?" "You talk too much nonsense. Come and take a look." After saying that, she grabbed Suyu and walked towards the puppet room at the side. On the other side, Wen Zhong was also there. When he saw the situation, he smiled ambiguously. Just as he was smiling, Wulan raised her head and said, "Teacher, you come too?" "Me? Hurry up." "All right then." Wen Zhong walked over. A moment later, in the laboratory, Wulan seemed to despise those puppets. "It's still a little lacking. It's not realistic enough." After which, she placed one of the puppets on the laboratory table. Soon, she picked up a knife and began cutting it. "Help me cut it. Open it up and spread it out." Suyu was speechless when he saw her cutting the puppets so cleanly. He did not waste any more words and went forward to help her. He quickly cut the puppet open. This puppet was very similar to a real person, except that it did not have any internal organs. There were some machines inside. Wulan threw these things away and quickly drew red dots one after another. She said, "Look, what I'm pointing out is the 9 apertures of Yuan opening. 8 apertures are at the head, and 1 is at the navel." Suyu nodded, and Wulan continued, "Look, whether it's the ear aperture, nose aperture, or eye aperture, are they all symmetrical?" She nodded. "Is the aperture of the 100 acupoints and the purple mansion divine citadel in the middle, and they're completely aligned? With these 2 apertures as the core and connected in a straight line, isn't it an axial symmetrical pattern?" Suyu nodded again. Wen Zhong smiled. "Little Wulan, what you mean is that the acupoints of the human body are actually perfectly symmetrical. If there are 360 acupoints, finding 180 would be enough, right?" "No." Wulan said speechlessly, "Of course I know such a simple principle. I'm saying that the ears, nose, and eyes are symmetrical and corresponding, but the acupoints of the 100 acupoints, the purple mansion divine palace, and the mouth acupoints are asymmetrical. In that case, there are 3 other acupoints that might be special acupoints as well. Suyu, take a look at the acupoints that you have now. I want to see if they are symmetrical." Suyu's eyes moved slightly, and he quickly pointed out all the acupoints. Apart from the 9 apertures of Yuan opening, he had also grasped 348 acupoints. In the next moment, Suyu's eyes changed slightly. The 3 acupoints of Bai Hui, the purple mansion, and the mouth acupoint were now the middle boundary. All the acupoints on both sides were symmetrical. All 348 of them were symmetrical. Wulan said excitedly, "Do you see them? So, Suyu, you may have already grasped all the apertures, but there are still 3 that you haven't found yet. I suspect that these 3 apertures are on this line. Don't ask anyone else. If you ask again, I suspect that no one will know." She quickly drew across the line and connected the 3 apertures. This is a central axis. If nothing goes wrong, the remaining 3 apertures are on this line. Otherwise, it would be asymmetrical, or at least one of them would be there. As for the remaining 2, if you find one, you will be able to find the second one. I mean, if it is also symmetrical, it is not on this line." Wen Zhong's eyes moved slightly, and he nodded. The little girl is right. Actually, the Daming Manor and the Great Xia Manor have already grasped almost all the apertures. There aren't so many undiscovered apertures in the two powerful manors. Su Yu, have you found any? Su Yu shook his head. No, I haven't found any. He had activated many cultivation techniques, but he hadn't found the remaining 3. As for Wu Lan, she said excitedly, Su Yu, I suspect that there's one here. She pointed a finger at the puppet, but Su Yu and Wen Zhong didn't say a word. Anus. This was indeed a point on the symmetry line, and it was also very special. Perhaps. There really was one. Wu Lan said excitedly, Su Yu, give it a try. If you don't dare, forget it, Zhou Hao isn't here. Otherwise, we can let Zhou Hao try. Perhaps there really is an aperture here. She was extremely excited. If there is an aperture here, then it's something I discovered. I want to name it. Su Yu said faintly, Anus aperture, Wu Lan aperture. The moment I opened my aperture, I thought of you. What do you think? Wu Lan's excited face instantly stiffened. That's right, the position of this aperture was so awkward. Wen Zhong also held back his laughter and did not say a word. The next moment. Changing the topic, he said, there really might be an aperture here. Su Yu, you can try. Find someone to try opening it. Even if you can't open it, if you open it wrongly, it won't be a big problem. At most, cough cough, it will explode. You just need to recuperate for a period of time. Su Yu's teeth hurt. I'm not going to try. If it explodes, F***ck, I don't want to see anyone else. I really can't afford to lose face. Wu Lan will really discover that there might really be an aperture here. Moreover, this line wasn't considered long. It would end when it reached the Yin region. If the other 2 apertures were special apertures. Alright, so you didn't want to say anything else. However, it had to be said that after Wu Lan sorted out these apertures, the patterns were indeed revealed. Su Yu hadn't dissected them previously, or else he would have been able to feel it. Of course, without further ado, it was indeed Wu Lan who first dissected the puppet and drew the symmetrical pattern. Su Yu was very generous as he said directly, Wu Lan, this essence aperture that you discovered will be yours in the future. I'll leave the naming rights to you. Once this acupuncture point was opened, when Yuan Qi exploded in the future, it might make people feel like they were farting, an awkward acupuncture point. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1148. 1148 Chapter 275, If I Don't Go to Hell, Who Will Go to Hell, 1. No matter what, after Wu Lan's dissection, Su Yu had some ideas on how to find the remaining 3 apertures. He had tried many cultivation techniques, but he couldn't find the remaining 3 apertures. He was already depressed, but now his mood was much better. Wu Lan, then you will help me focus on this aspect next. Su Yu had a solemn look on his face as he entrusted him with a heavy responsibility. Wu Lan also had a solemn look on her face as she was about to enter the battlefield. She had a sense of mission. As expected, without me, Su Yu would not have succeeded. The mission was very important. Su Yu snickered in his heart and did not say anything more. He quickly looked at Wen Zhong and said, Senior brother, there's something else that I want to say. I have a cultivation technique here that overlaps very well with the 36 aperture fusion technique, but its power is slightly weaker than the 1000 mass technique. Without needing him to say more, Wen Zhong quickly said, You want to use this to replace the Qianjun formula and promote it to the human realm? Yes. Su Yu nodded. That was exactly what he meant. Wen Zhong said with a solemn expression, the Qianjun formula has been tested for hundreds of years. Although it doesn't have many openings, it's the safest and most suitable for humans to open their openings and enter the Qianjun million stone, changing the cultivation method rashly, unless this cultivation method is extremely universal. Of course, with the combined opening method as the foundation, if it's not much weaker than the 1000 mass technique, and there aren't any major problems in cultivating it, then it won't be a problem. As he said that, Wen Zhong continued, but a cultivation method isn't just about opening one's openings. There are also matching martial techniques. In addition, it's best to have a matching body forging method. When you're in the air, you have to cast your body, change your blood, and be reborn. In addition, it's best to have the 9 transformations of Ling Yun and the 9 transformations of Vital Qi. This also requires a matching set. Wen Zhong said with a straight face, Junior Brother Su, a set of cultivation method is not something that can be spread by the number of openings and the amount of millions of stones. This is an entire system, not just these 2 short realms. This is different from the convergence method. The convergence method is of a supplementary nature, and from what I hear from you, you want to promote the entire set of cultivation method. Su Yu nodded. I know. There are actually follow-up cultivation methods at present, including the body forging method. Of course, the 9 transformations of Vital Qi is not quite compatible at the moment. Su Yu quickly said, we can make further deductions in the future. Besides, even if it's really not suitable, the body forging technique and the 9 transformations technique exist separately. It's not a coherent system. This thing could be replaced, so there wasn't much of a problem. Of course, a complete set was more suitable and compatible. When Zhong did not say any more, alright, then we can discuss it properly, but I suggest that you recruit more people. To be honest, I'm proficient in the research of acupuncture points, but the body forging technique and the 9 transformations of vitality aren't items that I'm good at. There were specializations in every field. It was impossible for him to cover all aspects. Alright, I will recruit a few seniors later. Su Yu did not mind. He needed to recruit more people. This thing was not something that could be created in a short period of time. However, he could not be idle. Su Yu hesitated for a moment before saying, Senior brother, do you think that if I were to spread a set of divine aperture basic text formula, would it cause too much of an impact? Definitely. When Zhong nodded, the basic text formula is different from the 10,000 literature classics. This means that one can open one's divine aperture while nurturing one's nature. The speed of opening one's divine aperture is fast. After entering the sky, one will quickly possess combat strength. The speed of switching to the 10,000 literature classics after that is also extremely fast. Su Yu shook his head. The type that doesn't switch to cultivation. The type that opens 72 divine apertures. The type that can be cultivated all the way to the end. When Zhong's expression changed when he heard that. The basic formula for opening 72 divine apertures. This meant that he didn't need to switch cultivation techniques. He could stay in the cultivation state for a period of time and directly enter the sky. Very quickly, his divine script and willpower would catch up and he would be able to enter Ling Yun, or even the 9th level of Ling Yun. The key was that this could allow many people in the cultivation state to start cultivating from a young age. They didn't have to wait until they were in the sky. Was the Zhu family considered powerful? A set of basic incantations for opening 24 gods' apertures was like a treasure. The difference between 24 gods' apertures and 36 gods' apertures was not huge. However, once one reached 72 gods' apertures, the difference would be like the difference between heaven and earth. It would rapidly change the situation of the entire civilized master realm. It was talking about the situation under the mountains and seas. If everyone was given some time, 3 years, 5 years, perhaps a batch of newly promoted Ling Yun would be born. When Zhong's expression turned solemn. This was much more important than he had imagined. Su Yu could really give people surprises. No, shock. Could he pass on the 72 divine apertures? He could pass on the 36 divine apertures, but it was hard to say for the 72 divine apertures. He quickly said, "You have to ask Mansion Master Zhu about this. Once you pass on the basic incantation of the 72 divine apertures, the human race will not dare to move or move. However, there will be many assassinations and assassinations from the 10,000 clans, including the 10,000 clans themselves. Of course, if you don't go to the heavenly battlefield, they won't go so far as to kill their way into the human realm for the sake of the changes under the mountains and seas. However, you will bring yourself a lot of trouble unless you stay in the research institute. In addition, the Zhu family must give you sufficient assurance." Wen Zhong took a deep breath and said, "Suyu, you have to know that the researchers among the civilized masters are the crystallization of wisdom. All the major manners attach great importance to them, and so do the 10,000 races. There are endless assassinations." Suyu nodded, "I know, but it's impossible to be famous without taking any risks. It's impossible to take advantage of the situation and sweep the whole world. I know that the basic formula of the 72 divine apertures is a good thing, but as you said, what it changes is the situation below the mountains and seas, not above them. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories." Chapter 1149. 1149 Chapter 275, If I don't go to hell, who will? Shio subscribe, too. This was a compromise. He wasn't considered an overlord until he reached the mountain and sea realm. No matter how many Ling Yun there were, he wouldn't be able to change the situation. Even if the 10,000 clans wanted to kill Suyu, they wouldn't have to pay too much of a price. For example, if they used invincible to kill him, the probability wasn't high. However, it was very likely that the sun and moon would appear. Wen Zhong's expression changed again and again. Once this cultivation technique was released, the situation in the human realm would really change. The key was that the low profile of Daming Mansion might be broken in an instant and become the focus of the attention of the human realm. "Let's go and look for the Mansion Master." Wen Zhong didn't dare to give Suyu any advice, nor did he dare to say anything else. Ling Yun was unable to make the decision on this matter, so he had to ask the Zhu family. Suyu did not say anything else. He packed up his things and looked at Wulan, who was still dissecting the puppet. He was helpless. "Did you even hear what we were saying?" However, when Wulan became serious, he had to admit that she still looked like a researcher. That was true. She might be more suitable for this path. Long before she entered the higher education institution, Wulan had helped a civilized teacher with a lot of translation work. She also knew a lot more languages than Suyu. Without greeting the focused Wulan, Suyu and Wen Zhong did not waste any time and quickly left the institute. At this moment, the sky was already dark. However, the Daming Institute of Higher Learning was still jubilant. The students were putting their arms around each other and chatting in groups of 3 or 3. Some were talking about love, and some were reciting poems. Wen Zhong took a look and then looked at the serious Suyu. He sighed. He didn't know whether Suyu joining the Daming Civilization Academy was a good thing or a bad thing. However, he knew that the future Daming Mansion might not be peaceful. The focus of the 10,000 races would come, and so would the human race. Also, once this cultivation technique was released, it would replace the 10,000 literature sutra which was in the quest realm. It might even be troublesome. After taking a few steps, Wen Zhong said, "A cultivation technique can create a family. For example, the 10,000 literature sutra, which is passed down by the academy's students, is divided into 2 parts, Soaring and Ling Yun. One exchange, Soaring 200 merit points to start, and Ling Yun 500 merit points. In total, a cultivation technique will be 700 merit points. The academy will take 10%, the local government will take 30%, the quest realm will take 20%, and the remaining 40% will go to the creator. A Ling Yun realm does not exchange for the text of will. A simple cultivation method is 700 merit points, and the creator will get 280 merit points. Su Yu, do you know how many civilized masters there are in the human realm? Su Yu shook his head, not sure. The Ming Mansion, civilized masters. I mean, there are about 10,000 people in the sky realm and above. That many? Su Yu said in surprise. In the Great Xia Civilized Academy, there are only about 500 civilized masters. Wen Zhong explained, that's an academy, not a mansion. The Great Xia Mansion had 3 major academies, and there were more than 1,000 civilized masters. Only when they were in the sky could they be considered civilized masters. There was no doubt about that. However, there was one thing that you forgot. There were not the largest number of academies. There were also the military and various major academies. For example, the Great Xia Civilized Academy provided 50 flying civilized masters to the Great Xia Mansion every year. Did you know that? Yes. Think about it yourself. This is still the Great Xia Civilization Academy. The other 9 heavens and Tao seeking would add up to at least 40 to 50 people, right? A year, they would have to send 100 flying civilization masters to the military. Yes, the Great Xia Academy's death rate is not low, but even if a third of them die in battle a year, there would still be around 70 people left. In 100 years, the entire civilization master generation would probably only change once. Therefore, the Great Xia Academy would definitely have more than 10,000 flying civilization masters. Su Yu said in surprise, what you mean is 38 manors, excluding the dual saint manors and the all heavens manors, there are still 36 manors. Even if there are only 360,000 civilized masters, excluding those seniors, each person will need to spend 280 merit points to change every 100 years, which is a little over 100 million merit points, 100 years, 100 million merit points, and a million merit points per year. This is the basic income. He looked at Su Yu and said, this is the part of the family that creates the cultivation technique, the part that can be earned. Every year, there will be one because new people will be born continuously. Every year, the foundation is a million merit points income. If your cultivation technique replaces the other party's cultivation technique, it would be destroying the other party's rice bowl. Su Yu frowned. He really had not considered this before. This is different from the convergence technique. The convergence technique did not destroy the other party's rice bowl. As he said that, he said with some hidden bitterness, not really, it destroyed my rice bowl. Forget it, I'll just destroy it. After all, there weren't that many people who cultivated the joint aperture technique before. Su Yu was embarrassed. It seemed like it was true. The previous fusion technique was created by this person. Junior brother, you still have to consider this point. The 10,000 Literature Sutra was released in the Quest realm. However, it doesn't mean that it belongs to the Quest realm. Instead, it belongs to a portion of the family. Just like the War God technique, it's also the same. The Xia family of the Great Xia Mansion actually holds a portion of the War God technique. The matter of destroying someone's job. A stable income of 1 million merit points in a year was a terrifying income. Su Yu had killed so many sun, moon, mountains, and seas, but he didn't have 1 million merit points. The other party easily received 1 million merit points every year. Destroying someone's source of income was like killing their parents. This hatred, if the other party was able to turn the tables, it would be fine. But if he couldn't turn the tables, it would be normal for him to hate Su Yu to death. If it was Su Yu, he would also hate the other party for depriving him of 1 million merit points in a year. Junior brother, do you understand now? Su Yu said in a deep voice, I understand, but this is how it is. The strong prey on the weak. If my cultivation technique is stronger than his, then let's exchange it for mine. Just like how the 10,000 Literature Sutra replaced other cultivation techniques, it hasn't been long since it appeared. Cultivation techniques are constantly being updated and replaced. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1150. 1150 Chapter 275, If I Don't Go to Hell, Who Will Go to Hell? 3. He understood this principle, but with each new generation, those who fell behind would be eliminated. This was also the law of nature. If your cultivation technique wasn't good, why did you have to use yours? There was no such reason. After saying this, Suyu asked, which family is in charge of the Huan Jing? The Zhou family and the Yuan family. Wen Zhong said faintly, the Zhou family of the Great Zhou family and the Yuan family of the De Yuan family. Junior brother, this is the result of the collaboration between the Great Zhou king and the De Yuan king. The De Ming king didn't participate in it. What you are doing is destroying the livelihood of the invincible family. Suyu frowned, then can we not promote that powerful cultivation technique? Yes. But we have to negotiate with the Zhu family. Wen Zhong said in a low voice, on the Zhu family's side, they are not bad people, but if you want to call them good people, that might not be the case. Be careful of being tricked. Manor Head Zhu is not a bad person, but he might overlook this point and deliberately ignore it. He doesn't want to harm you, but he wants you to understand in the future that you can't leave Daming Manor. You can't leave Daming Manor. You have offended two invincible families at once. Suyu understood and nodded. This point was true. Was Zhu Tiandao bad? At least Suyu didn't think so. But did he want to keep Suyu? Of course. How could he stay? Suyu could escape from the Great Xia Manor, and he could also escape from Daming Manor. But if Suyu offended two invincible families, then try running again. If he ran again, he would have to think about the manor he ran to. Was it worth it? Would it be worth it to offend the Zhou, Yuan, Zhu, and perhaps even the Xia family all of a sudden? At that time, where could Suyu run to? If that was the case, the price of Suyu's departure would be too great. Suyu understood and nodded. He did not say anything else. Let's see. Tiandu Mansion, City Lord Mansion. Zhu Tiandao was listening to a small song and humming a small tune. He was at ease. Beside him, the descendants of the Zhu family were also attentively listening to the people on the stage sing. Some were playing by themselves, while others were eating happily. This was the Zhu family's daily routine. The family often gathered together. Zhu Tiandao was more concerned about the feelings of the family. The family members would usually stay by his side and often gather for meals. According to Zhu Tiandao, cultivators who lived for too long tended to be indifferent to their feelings. Without these feelings, they would have no desires or desires, they were easily perverted. As he was listening to the music, guards quickly came in from outside the door. They came over and quickly said a few words. Zhu Tiandao raised his eyebrows. Suyu and Wen Zhong came to visit. It was already so late. What were these two doing here? Even though he was puzzled, he still stood up and was about to leave when Zhu Qinyan beside him asked curiously, Grandpa, Suyu and the others came to look for you? Yes. He's a very boring person. Zhu Qinyan said gloomily, he's like a blockhead. Zhu Tiandao smiled. You. He looked at the other people in the arena. At this moment, the little tune on the stage stopped. Zhu Tiandao looked around, he smiled faintly and said, we're all family. Close the door and let me say a few words. I don't care how arrogant, and awesome you all are, that's in private. On the surface, you're all the Zhu family's spokespersons. When you meet a strong person, show me some respect. When you meet a genius, show me some respect. When you meet an elder, show me some liveliness. Zhu Tiandao said indifferently, don't give me those useless things. The Zhu family is not afraid of trouble, but they don't cause trouble. Because of whose rudeness and whose arrogance caused trouble, the Zhu family feels sorry for their descendants. However, the Zhu family doesn't mind giving up a few people who cause trouble for no reason. He looked at Zhu Qingyan and stopped smiling. He frowned and said, "Be sensible. Your grandfather, for his sake, killed 2 suns and moons, more than 10 mountains and seas, and caused monstrous trouble. Even if I don't know his importance, I can still see this point. Don't make me think that you're too stupid. If I think that you're too stupid, then your identity as the 8th princess can't compare to suns and moons. Qingyan, do you understand?" Zhu Qingyan's face changed slightly, and she hurriedly nodded. "I understand, grandfather." "Good boy." Zhu Tiandao smiled and looked at his sons over there. He smiled faintly and said, "The Zhu family is not afraid of your weakness, but they are afraid of your stupidity. It doesn't matter if you are weak. My father is still here and I am still here. I can still protect all of you. Stupidity, that is incurable. Su Yu is a genius. He has talent, brains, courage, and courage. That is why I value him. I value him and not for you to be jealous of him. Stupid fellows, I recruited these people to protect all of you, not for me. Your friends, your future saviors, must you push them to the opposite side? A wise man will turn his enemies into his own people. A fool will turn his own people into his enemies. Let me say one more thing. The Zhu family doesn't need fools. They can be weak, but they definitely cannot be stupid. Do you understand?" In the next moment, the entire hall only heard the unanimous reply, "Understood." Zhu Tiandao smiled and turned to leave. The moment he left, the Zhu family's 3rd son, Zhu Qingyan's father, frowned slightly. He berated, "Qingyan, don't make such a mistake again. Your grandfather wants to betroth you to Su Yu because he values you and not because he wants you to pick on him. Even if you're willing, Su Yu might not agree. To a genius and a powerhouse, marrying an invincible descendant is a choice that they have no choice but to make." Zhu Qingyan felt wronged and said in a low voice, "Father, I didn't say anything. Grandfather is already angry, and you're scolding me too." She felt that she was still very wronged. "I didn't say anything either. Su Yu was boring. That was how it was. Moreover, he said that he wasn't a philanderer. In the end, someone chased him from the Great Xia mansion to the Great Ming mansion. Now that he was living with Su Yu, he was just a hypocrite. How could he lie?